This is the Black Nerd Talks podcast. This is your main host, Eb. I'd like to tell you a little bit about me before we start. I'm a social worker and men's rights advocate with an extensive history in competitive esports such as Guilty Gear, Gundam vs. and Street Fighter. I hope that today's episode will provide you with some nerd self-help through deep conversational interviews and open discussions where you hear the stories and perspectives of our fellow nerds. Join us as we uncover the themes and messages found in the mediums of anime, video games, and as well as comic books, and how we can apply the life lessons found in them to deal with our everyday struggles. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Discord, all under the same name and logo of Black Nerd Talks. Follow us to let us know what you think of the latest episodes. We'd love to hear your feedback. Following us will also allow you to keep up with when we drop the latest and newest episodes. We also have an Etsy shop where if you search Black Nerd Talks, you can find our Black Nerd Talks t-shirts and crewnecks if you'd like to support the podcast. All right, guys, we're back. Happy New Year's for all you guys are listening. The last one that came out, you guys heard, was on Freyrin. I have two new guests that are going to be reoccurring. You guys are going to be hearing more from them. I'll let you guys, I don't know who wants to introduce themselves first.
Sure. Why the heck not? All right. My name's Nedu. Yeah, I am a social worker. Been working for over 10 years, which kind of makes my blood run cold every time I say it. But yeah, work primarily with Black youth, and also been into anime since like 1996. Anyway, I'm old. I'm the oldest guy.
Yeah, the
OG. Oh no.
Yep.
Yes, let's go with that. Let's go with OG. I like that. Thank you.
Has gravitas to it. Guess
Yes.
I'm next. My name is Aziz. I work in the environmental sphere. I also unfortunately have a meme page where if there's an anime going right now, I'm making fun of it because I don't know what's up with my brain, but like I'll be watching a show and I'll be like, this looks very similar to this other thing, or wouldn't it be so funny if I edited this like this? And somehow 11,000 people started following me. Yeah, and also make music on the side. AZ Ghost, if you want to check that out on Spotify and like other streaming services. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
It's true. I had to check out your music page, but yeah, no, like when you did that post about Mayuri and Frieza's voice actor, I'm like, yeah, they tend to play war criminals.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like somebody you gotta look at. Hey, that's interesting.
Yeah, and there's also a purple theme with, I don't remember his name, but like Mayuri.
Actually, so funny you say that because like, I don't know if you remember the other characters like in that meme, but there was like the coach from Haikyuu for Shira Torizawa's team, and they also wear like a purple jersey.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was looking at the image. I'm like, they're all purple. Even Frieza with his the golden Frieza thing is it called?
Yeah, golden Frieza.
Yeah, Frieza's.
I guess purple's the color of evil.
Yeah. What's funny? I was telling my boy about that. I was just like, yeah, purple was it? I was saying like, yeah, purple and red. Those are just. They tend to be evil colors, like literally, especially purple black fire. You're probably a bad.
Yeah,
probably a bad person.
Accurate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and yellow, Kenpachi.
Yeah. Didn't Piccolo come this show up with like a purple fit?
And he wasn't a good person for season 1 of Dragon Ball.
Yeah, it's true. Damn.
Oh, sorry about my cat. She just woke up.
Oh, you have a cat?
Oh, she went back to sleep. You can see her chilling down there.
Oh,
I know you're a pet person.
Nice. Oh, I am. It's more like a roommate. We just up and that's it.
Nice. It's because I stereotyped you. I just assume most Africans aren't pet people.
No, that's true. I had to fight my parents to get a cat.
Okay, so I wasn't crazy.
I've been trying for 25 years.
Wow, Chelsea, you didn't give up.
That's impressive. Yeah,
I love cats, bro. Because I think it was like 2 years ago where I'm like, hey, I'm a grown ass person. I just go to my mom, like, yo, I want to get a cat. She's like, okay, can you wait till we move to a bigger place? I'm like, okay, but like, can you give me a specific timeline so I can actually like keep track of the progress?
Yeah.
So she was like, okay, by next year, like this exact date. So like we shook hands on it, and I was like, yo, that date rolls around, you just come back home and you'll see a cat. She didn't think I was serious, so like she was just like, whatever. That a year rolls around, the day like I put a time 10 days before the due date. I just call every shelter in Toronto. I'm like, yo, I want to see your cats, and I just pick the one that looks like the most. The one that looked like it had the fewest amount of brain cells, and that's how I ended up with Summer. I saw her photo on the website. And I'm like, there's nothing between those two eyeballs. And I just fell in
This
love.
is why he has a meme page, guys. This is why he has a meme page.
Amazing.
Yes, I was like relatable.
Amazing. Yeah, I want me and the cat to be on the same level when we wake up. Just like, yeah, okay.
Real. Yeah.
So, yeah. So we have these two guys on us because we're going to be talking about some long-standing anime, and Debo and Jordan are catching up on One Piece, which will probably take them like give or take a year or two with One Piece.
Ah, yeah.
Depending on
One
how hard
Piece.
they watch it. Sorry?
Yeah. I said, oh yes, One Piece. I forgot about One Piece.
I couldn't catch up with One Piece. I was talking to my boy about this, who we grew up since high school together. I was like, bro, before I could catch up on One Piece, I'd go between academic seasons and stuff, and I'd catch up in One Piece. But I'm like, bro, you know how hard it is to catch up on One Piece when you have bills to pay?
Hmm.
Like, it's very hard. It's a different tier of difficulty, because I'm out here watching Wano. I'm like, did I pay my phone bill?
Good thing I caught up in high school.
Perfect for you. Yeah. I was just like, damn. Even for me, I was just like, I think, while I was watching, after I finished Whole Cake, I was like, I need to call Bell and Rogers to adjust my phone bill right now. And then like I took a small break, and then I did that, and it got to Wano. Like, I couldn't do it before.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you could have just called Rogers and said, if they increase your bill, like Roger didn't die for this. I'm like,
I was like, what?
Incredible.
The puns, crazy. All right, that means we know we're in for a good episode with Aziz on this one.
I hope so.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about Zoro. Sorry, not Zoro. I saw Zoro on my phone. We're going to be talking about Sanji, and I would say probably the most underrated arc in one of the most underrated arcs in One Piece, especially post time skip, which is Whole Cake. Yeah. But I think we can definitely talk about why that is, especially for amongst us boys and men. The nuance. I think all of us appreciate the arc because we're older, too. Yeah. I think if I was to go back into when I was 16, I was watching One Piece. I'm like, where are the lasers? Where's the Buster calls? What is this? Yeah. Where's this character development? I'm not here for character. I'm here for lasers. I'm here for Pluto destroying what's happening? But
so funny you say that, because like the early 2000s and like 2010s, we had tons of like One Piece AMVs where it's just Luffy looking badass.
Yep.
That's not even half of the series when it comes to like those badass like moments, those hype moments. It's not even half of the series. So
But funny enough, like, that's what me and my friends in high school would gather around and just like watch and be like, oh my god, he's so cold, bro.
Just I was talking to my boy, when you get people to watch Bleach, you just show them the Bunkai AMVs. It's like, look at this.
Yeah.
Sword shooting lasers. What? And then you're just, I need to watch this anime. Swords are shooting lasers. That's impossible. That doesn't even make any sense. This guy's sword turns into cherry blossoms that kill you. And that's stupid.
Oh, amazing.
That's true.
But yes, I'd like to start the conversation in terms of just this arc. I think this arc represents, it is about Sanji, but I think represents Sanji. And there's a term that Debo used in our last episode. He said, become a Renaissance man. And I think that really encapsulates the idea of Sanji, right? As much as he's a very capable fighter, he's also a capable cook. He's very friendly. He's very loving to others. He's very supportive. He's very expressive of his emotions. I think he doesn't hide crying. But at the same time, he can still retain like a stoic demeanor, because the other men in the show who cry is like Usopp and Frankie, but they're not. I wouldn't put them in the realm of stoic.
Yeah,
Frankie's a Gundam, so that's like his gender. But like when it comes to Frankie identifies as Gundam, he's mecha. Yeah. Yes, Sanji can be stoic like Zoro and Luffy, but at the same time, he can still cry. And I think he's just so nuanced. And I think, to me, I think that the idea of men and masculinity hasn't really moved beyond I'm not, because I can imagine like Zoro people would come after me for saying this. Why'd you say that about our Lord and Savior? But I think that the idea of masculinity hasn't really moved beyond the idea of what like Zoro and Ichiji, Niji, and Yonji represent in terms of masculine, like the stoic, cold, I don't get scared, I don't feel things, and I'm always serious all the time. Like Zoro's not really nuanced. Like he's a Sanji's a cook of the crew who can fight.
Mhm.
Is one of the strongest fighters. Zoro's just, I'm here to cut people, which is not a bad thing. Every crew has a swordsman. Sorry, go on, guys.
Oh no, I was just gonna say Zoro's question when things are slightly inconvenient is, can I cut it? And sometimes people are like, stop. That's his only setting, which is fine, right? But like you said, Sanji has a lot more nuance. He is a full person, and he's able to live as a full person. And it's interesting, and I'm sure we'll get into that, but it's interesting. You'll notice when he is restraining himself is generally when he feels like he's a burden or might be a burden to other people. That's when he starts going within himself a little bit. And I think we'll talk about that more. But yeah, I really appreciate Sanji's ability to be almost everything, because he can be stoic and serious. But then when he starts talking about old blue or all blue, he starts acting like a child. Like you see him light up.
Oh man, I vividly have the image of that panel like in my head where like he just lights up. I think he was telling Luffy about the old blue.
Yeah.
And he just lights up. Oh my god, that was so precious.
Like you see him he goes back into like his inner child when he's excited to talk about something, which he does. And that's the other thing about Sanji too, is like he doesn't talk to anybody just about the old blue, right? It's only really like the two people he first talks about all blue with is Zeph, and then no, I think did he talk about it with Reiju? His sister?
I don't know, but I saw a meme yesterday where someone said like he last mentioned it like over 4 years ago. Like in terms of like episode / chapter.
Okay, so so he probably mentioned it. He probably mentioned it to Reiju, probably just based off the relationship. And then and then it was years, and then it was with Zeph and then Luffy. And then I don't know if he's really mentioned it to the rest of the crew like that. Sanji doesn't really, to me, he doesn't really open up like that.
I think he only mentioned it. So remember when they were about to go to Reverse Mountain, I think it was about that time when they all put their foot on the barrel, like the 5 original crew, and they're just like, so I think that's the only time he ever really said he's like, I want to find the all blue, right? They're all kind of saying that
after Alabasta, right?
Yes. No, it was before, because they didn't even have Chopper. Like, they didn't even have Chopper on their team at that point. But yeah, like that was the only time. But he didn't really get into it. Like he didn't actually talk about it with people besides Reiju, probably. Zeph and Luffy. Those are the only people he actually had a conversation with.
Yeah, and so I feel that really what sets Sanji apart from the rest of the crew. I'd probably say he's probably along the lines of, how would I word this? In terms of his portrayal of masculine, I'd say he's closest to Luffy, because Luffy always stays the same way. He's very, as much as we love watching Luffy punch people and look stoic and have like his mafia coat on as he punches Kaido so strong the first One Piece opening starts playing. By the way, shout outs to the Crunchyroll people who come up with the YouTube titles.
Yeah.
Have you seen that, Aziz? Have you seen the Crunchyroll?
I feel like they come up with the funniest titles, and they always remind me of, if you guys watch Kitchen Nightmares.
Kitchen Nightmares is anime or live action?
That's
no, it's like a TV show with Gordon Ramsay going to restaurants and helping them out.
Okay.
And whoever runs this YouTube account is like a Zoomer, because all their titles like are like so funny, like to like people like millennials and younger. Like there's things like, you know the term brain rot?
Yeah.
All the titles are brain rot, which is impressive because like they never miss every single, because like they upload snippets, and it's like similar energy to Crunchyroll where like a 22-year-old wrote that title. Like no way.
Yeah, absolutely. What was it? Like when Zoro's fighting S-Hawk, it was like S-Hawk gives Zoro PTSD or flashbacks or something. I'm just like, yeah.
That's so funny.
Or Zoro gave Kaido PTSD. I'm just like, this is, it's a 22-year-old wrote this.
Amazing.
A 22-year-old wrote this.
Yeah. We need more of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, funny what you said earlier about like Sanji how he's similar to Luffy, where he's just unabashedly himself. I wrote like, when I was reading like your notes, I wrote a whole like borderline essay about that specific point and how it relates. I think I'm gonna leave it for later because it's like way down the script, so I can't wait.
Okay. Yeah. So I think I feel like Whole Cake Island is representative of that. And as much as like we've seen Sanji have a cascade of emotions and ways of expressing himself and dealing with himself and being who he is. Whole Cake Island has been or was a constriction of everything who he is due to his relationship with his family, specifically Judge, right? Where there's as there's this expectation for him to be the ideal son, and the ideal son is to be more along the lines of Ichiji, Yonji, and no, I'm forgetting what.
Niji.
I was just like 1, 2. I'm trying to count.
Yeah, Ichi Nissan.
In Japanese, I was like, I'm missing 2, right? I'm like, what is 2 in Japanese? Yeah, Ichiji, Niji, and Yonji. There we go.
Yeah. Also, I just want to mention that was such a clever addition by Oda, because like when he first named Sanji, I don't think he no way he had that in plan. And if I remember correctly, his first name was supposed to be Naruto because the fish cake and the swirl on like, his eyebrow.
Yeah.
So the fact that he was like, wait, San sounds like 3. What if I give him 3 other brothers, 1, 2, and 4?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And like Ray being 0.
And that perfect. And also, I just want to touch on this. It's very nuanced, but so like whenever we see like this whole abusive family thing, it's always like the youngest sibling. I like how Sanji is the second youngest. It's just a little thing, but I like how even Yonji, the youngest, is a bully to Sanji, because usually it's always the youngest sibling, right? In TV shows and media, it's always like the youngest is just an ostracized other. But I really like how he's the third youngest, so he's a senior to Yonji. Yet Yonji's like, bro, I don't respect you at all.
Yeah,
that's an interesting perspective, because like where I grew up is like pretty different. So in like middle, I don't know how like similar it is to like far Asian cultures, but like in Middle Eastern like cultures, the youngest child is always like the one who's the most spoiled, because like obviously if you're the first kid, like you're the parents' experiment. Like they're trying to like, I mean they're learning to be parents with you, so they're doing their best, and like obviously they have the most expectations, like you're the firstborn. And then on the flip side, like the youngest child, like I feel like years have gone by, the parents have calmed down, especially like if they had like stresses from like raising a child. Now they're like, they know the whole playbook. Even in Arabic we have a term for like the youngest child, which is akhir al-uqud, which means like the lowest grape and like the bundle of grapes. Because if I remember, like if I understood it correctly, like it tends to be the sweetest ones, like that's why the youngest child is like the most beloved / spoiled. And then like you have the kids in between where like they were like, okay, I was the youngest, but like I'm not that anymore, and I definitely not. I'm the oldest, so like, where does that put me? And like then you have like the middle child syndrome.
Yeah.
So and that's how I saw like Sanji's upbringing. So, sorry, go on.
Oh no, that's okay. Like you're so spot on. Like honestly, again, like I know we'll get more into this, but I relate to Sanji so hardcore a lot of times, and I think all of us do in certain ways, right? But I'm the middle child in a household of 3 children, right? Yeah.
I'm the youngest. Sorry, guys.
No,
I'm the sweetest grape.
But that is so interesting how we all saw Sanji's like siblings dynamic differently depending on like where we are, like in the group.
Absolutely, and the whole thing was about the forgotten middle child really holds up with Sanji too, because he was just this weird outlier. You're not the youngest, you're not the oldest, so it's really difficult sometimes for a middle child to find their place in a family system or a family dynamic. And Sanji's place was completely different. Everything he wanted, loved, cared for, the things that made him who he was completely rejected by the family. Like he, like middle children being a bit of an oddity, and then in Sanji's case, literally being thrown in a dungeon at some point. Like it's almost like that dynamic that we know about and are seeing in real life, just played to the umpteenth degree. Like it's cool to see, and also like super depressing.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. And even when Sanji starts off this arc, he's talking to Judge, and he was saying, what was it? I'll go back to the pirate ship as soon as the tea party ends. I'll just pretend to marry her. Like, so even he's playing into the role of like, you know what? Just for right now, I'm going to be your ideal son. And for me to be your ideal son, it means that I have to constrain and lie to myself. And for me, you guys could speak on your experiences too, being like the I guess you could say the unideal African son. So I'm the youngest and I'm the only son. So my elder siblings, my sister, by 8 years. There's also additional pressure. As much as, yes, I am spoiled in certain ways, I'm also dealing with just being expected to be like the perfect son. And so Sanji even just saying that reminded me of even, so there's a point where my dad was really sick, and we're going to expand on these stuff like, as the episode goes on. And my family was just thinking there's something wrong with me because I like video games and anime and comic books, that I should my sister suggested I should basically constrain myself to appease everybody. So I should hide the fact that and tell them that I won't play video games and watch anime anymore just to appease what they want, because who I am, there's something wrong with that. I don't know if that's something that you guys can relate to as sons, but it's something I definitely can relate to. Just like, you know what, let me just do what you want by lying to myself and about myself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think I had some points written for that. Yeah, like I was on this note, the way I see it is that a lot of parents, especially ones that either immigrated or have some generational trauma going on, obviously they don't get to do everything they wanted to do in their own lifetimes. Once they have kids, they're like, oh, I'm just going to put like all my desires / goals / dreams onto the child.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you end up having parents who like super strict to their kids. Like, oh, you're going to ace everything. You're going to be in different clubs. You're going to do different sports because like, I want you to be what I couldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
And like, some of them are like, either like, oh, I understand like this is very stressful to the child, but like, I want you to do what I didn't have the chance to. And some of them are like, I don't care because like, if you do this thing and succeed in it, I succeed with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, that's why Judge was like, oh, like this, I never had any use for this child, but now that like, now he perfectly fits because like, he's not a soldier, so might as well like just marry him off for like, the political ties.
Yeah.
Fodder to me, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. I just saw him as a tool, and like that, like basically that's that whole idea of having your children just be extensions of yourself, right? Like they're not even full people in Judge's eyes. And so again, like his sons and daughter by extension too, but his son specifically, like they are just pawns, they're soldiers. And then it's like, how do I use this useless pawn? Oh, I can use it here. I can sacrifice this pawn. Essentially is what Sanji was, a sacrificial pawn. It's not going to be good in the fight, so I'll just sacrifice it to get this thing that I need.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I can definitely also relate to that whole idea of again, like what sons, boys, men, what they're supposed to be. Like again, being Nigerian, going into the social sciences was not something my parents were happy about.
So you're going to become an emotional doctor.
It's like he was there.
You're going to diagnose people with a sadness. Nedu. So this is why I've come to Canada for you to become someone who is prescribing a depression. Your mates are prescribing medication for diabetes. You're prescribing medication for sadness. Look at you. Hey, you have to get that. Look at you. I don't even know what do you mean by look at me. See,
yeah, at least you guys are progressive. Like I don't think East African people believe in depression.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. They're like, what is depression? You're going to diagnose somebody with depression. You're going to medicate them for depression. Is that even real? Look at you.
Yeah.
Life.
And they'd be like, oh, of course you're depressed. Like you don't have a job. Like you're not doing good work. You know what I mean? It's like
of course
you're depressed. Like, it's your fault.
Yeah, of course you're not depressed. You're not making enough money. You're not doing this. No, it's it's funny because again, my parents, and I gotta say, like my parents have grown a lot, so I really do give them a lot of credit, a lot. So I actually really appreciate them. But like when I first got to university, my dad would look at me and wistfully be like, "My dad, who is a scientist, right? My dad's a scientist, mom's an accountant. They're very science-based because I'm not good at any of that stuff. I was so bad at that. Also, I was like the air quotes emotional one. Like I was like the one that had a lot of feelings, right? So they had no idea what to do. Like I had my first existential crisis when I was 6 years old, and my parents are like, "We need to lock this kid in a room." Like it was it's like. But my dad used to look at me, whisper.
That sounds like a judge.
Let's put him over there. We'll throw some food at him. But he used to look at me and be like, if two things I can remember about too deep, but like I remember he used to wistfully look at me like, if I could do it all again, I'd be a doctor. And I'm just like, I don't know what to tell you, man. That's not me. and I remember as well. So I was forced to play sports growing up. I think the last time was when I was still in my teens. Like this is how long it persisted. Like I was playing basketball, and my poor father was like trying to teach me how to play basketball, and I was just like, look, I do this for fun occasionally, but I'm just not enjoying myself. And I think that's when he finally gave up after I was in a league and I was just miserable. And my whole team, it was a whole bunch of white kids too. They all hated me. And it was my coach.
He's black and he's not.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. And my coach, the coach was actually really nice. He was really, try to support me and stuff, and even asked me to come practice with him occasionally, which I did. But I think at that point, my dad finally just saw how miserable I am, and I think that's the thing. It's just like, at some point you realize that he was doing that thing that we were talking about, right? Where he was just like, oh, I'm just trying to live through my child, and he is actually having a terrible time. And so it's just like a blessing that can be seen. And again, if we're talking about like true fathers that actually support people, it's like that whole difference between like Zeph and Judge, right? Like Judge can only ever see people as tools, right? Anyway, yeah, it's sad stuff.
Yeah, I feel like Oda really slapped that notion in your face when he was fighting Sanji, and then at the end of the fight, his Judge was like wall, and then 4 soldiers just like showed up to form a wall.
Yeah.
You cannot get more literal than that.
Yep.
True.
Yep, true. Like I was like, oh, what's wall? I was like, because you usually see the subtitle, you're like, oh, this is a quote. What's wall? Just
Yeah, no, it's like, oh, this must be some technique. Oh, it's just people.
Yeah. And he's dead.
The technique of slavery.
Oh, yeah, that was rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, you're about to see something, Aziz?
No, I wasn't. No.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I was just gonna say, even for me, yeah, touching on what you were saying, I'll put in something that I really like that Judge was even saying to Sanji. He was like, this is during the flashbacks, that Sanji had so much flashbacks in the arc. Like I had to watch so many episodes again. But he was saying, like, Sanji, are you cooking for rats again? Royalty does not serve. How many times do I have to tell you never cook again? And those experiences played out in some of my childhood too, in terms of my experiences just being told like, you shouldn't basically like the things that you like that bring you joy. It took quite a bit of time, because even for me, like all the other Nigerian boys in the Montreal community, they were athletic, they were charismatic, they loved jumping and doing all these crazy stuff. Even till this day, as much as I'm very, like a lot of people consider me very masculine, I don't like being hurt. I find it very inconvenient. If I can avoid getting hurt or getting sick, I would, which is probably why I'm healthier than most around our age. Because I'm like, my arm hurts, I'm going to go to the doctor, as opposed to how we're usually as men, we're like, oh, my arm hurts, I'll just
see how it goes for 3 days.
I may do that for 1 day. If I wake up and it's there, I'm like, Dad, my arm hurts. What do you think? Because I slept on it and it's the same, right? Yeah, even till this day, I don't really like being hurt. I find it inconvenient. And so, I'm a defective son by all Nigerian/African standards. I'm bad at school.
Sounds like your survival instincts are working.
Huh? Oh,
sounds like your survival instincts are working.
Hey, man, I was trying to make it. I was just like, I don't like pain. But yeah, no, I was bad at school, and if you're at bad school, you at least be good at sports. I was also equally bad in sports.
Yeah,
there was like with the kid. He sucks at school, but man, this kid can run. No, I can't run, and I don't have high marks. I'm mid across the board. I'm mid at school, mid at sports. I'm mid at socializing, and goes hella socially awkward. I prefer being indoors, playing with my toys, and the things that brought me joy. And also the other thing I would say plays a factor too is that my sister was more of a stereotypical boy, quote unquote. She actually liked getting hurt, like jumping, like doing all these things, like swinging on the monkey bars. I was like, this looks dangerous. What if I get hurt? Like that's how I was as a kid. I was like, what if I get hurt? Now I'm injured. How's that fun? You know what's fun? My Power Ranger toys, having Power Rangers on the screen, maybe even Pokemon or Digimon, and I'm dry. Fire.
And that does not hurt.
That sounds fantastic.
Right? And I before my mom passed, we had a conversation when I was in therapy, in my initial therapy session, and she kept like blaming herself for being a horrible mom. I'm like, first of all, relax. I never said you're a horrible mom. But I made her, I'm like, because he kept telling me, I don't know if this happened to I know you grew up in East Africa, Aziz, but like for Nedu, did your parents send you like to summer camp and stuff?
Oh yeah, that was bad.
Yeah, okay. Same. My parents sent me to summer school and summer school and summer camp. And a conversation I had with my mom, which I only learned about here in Ontario when I moved, is that like art camp. Do you know how much more fun I would have had at art camp? But first of all, our parents are coming from a different continent, different time zone, different era. What the hell is art camp?
Yeah, I had no idea what that even
Honestly, I say that too because I went to school in the UAE and the clubs were not a concept. So I'll be watching TV and like seeing kids go to clubs and I'm like, damn, like I low-key wish we had that.
There you go. So I don't fault my parents for that, but I'm like, I definitely would have benefited from going to art camp. I'm seeing these kids here go to art camp and they don't have to run around drawing and they're learning about science. I'm like, I would have been so engaged in that as opposed to sending me somewhere. Instead of me being with my Super Nintendo, I know I'm aging myself. Instead of me being with my SNES, I'm out here having to play soccer and I can't even kick the ball properly. And kids know, like, this guy sucks.
Oh my God. And they're so mean about it. Like, they're so mean.
Kids are ruthless. You're trying your best. Kids like, bro, why are you so ass? Why are you on my team?
God. It's so rough.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys want to say something, but yeah, for me, it was just like that. Those aspects made it really challenging for my dad to have a better understanding. Like what you're saying, Nedu. Like it took my dad some time to get used to. It was just like, I'm not gonna be the Huxtable ideal son where I'm just charismatic and know how to talk. I was horrible at talking to girls. I was hella mean.
It's funny too, because like me too. Like maybe I'm telling myself too much, but it's just like, definitely the case. Like most of my and this also had some negative effects, but most of the time growing up, like I was one of the few Black people in my area. I think like some of the other older Black kids like did not want the heat that I was getting, so they left me like where I was because it was pretty bad. So most of my friends were actually white girls. That's who I grew up like interacting with, and it was interesting because like I think there was a lot of like just more subtle racism happening, but it was the case that even I remember this so distinctly because a bunch of the boys were burning ants with a magnifying glass, right? And it's not like I like bugs or anything. I was like neutral towards them, but I'm like, I don't want to do that. Seems like a really weird thing to do. And I think they were doing it to the rest of the girls, and the girls were like talking about it. And I was like, I'm just not into this. So I just left and I told my mom. And my mom was so annoyed. She's just like, you're going to do that. And this is so interesting. It's so interesting because there was this aspect of masculinity that I was not participating in. And then I was like, I'm just out. I'm no judgment. I just thought what I want to do. And my mom was just like, why are you being a little bitch about it? That was the response. And I'm just like, I was so surprised and dismayed by that.
You're going to go kill some ants.
Essentially. Yeah, I was just like, why am I doing this? Like
also the fact that your mom was influenced by children, that's.
And again, it was like, and I would say this about my mom because again, like I said, she has grown so much. She's actually like possibly like one of my biggest cheerleaders these days, which is interesting. We'll talk about that a little bit more because it flipped in some interesting ways. But it was because I was trying to hide it as much as I possibly could, but she knew how much I was being bullied. This was in her idea how to protect me, right?
She was like, participate.
Exactly. So I'm thinking about Reiju kind of thing, where it's just like almost like this idea of, look, you need to do these things or they're going to keep doing that shit. And that's what my mom was doing. She was so incensed that this was the thing because they were making fun of me too, but I was just left and I told her about this. And then she's just like, you're doing this right now. I'm just like, why? And so that also made me start talking less about what was happening in school to my family because I'm like, I'm going to get attacked from both places if I actually talk about this. It was wild.
Yeah, no, I actually experienced that too in my own ways. And I also stopped sharing. It took until like maybe, I think his last couple of years of being therapized and stuff, I was like,
yes.
Oh, that's probably why I just stopped sharing. It's because I just wasn't being heard and understood. So I was just like, you know what? And this is the thing with boys and men is that you just shut off. Yeah. If you don't feel like you're being heard, you're just like, you know what? I just won't share.
Yeah.
It's just a lot easier that way. I'm not really just going to complain to anybody. I'm just going to keep it to myself, which in a lot of ways is that same aspect of the stoicism in Sanji that you'd see in more standardized forms of masculine, like with Zoro, right? Like the Nanimo Nakata. Nothing happened. Probably one of my favorite scenes of Zoro till this day is the whole, what happened? Nothing. Yeah. Nothing at all. So, what a man. My chest hair grew a little bit from this.
Yeah, I know.
Also, like you can see like how much respect he like gained for Luffy in that moment.
Oh,
just insane. Yeah, because like he was taking on his pain, right? And he was like that. Luffy was taking all of this just for all of us.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah. That scene, it's so interesting because I absolutely love that scene for Zoro too, and I also love it for as well in a different way. And obviously people talked about this, so this isn't a super deep thought or whatever, but I just really appreciate the difference between the two of their own self-worth in that scene, right? Because Sanji was like, no, I'm going to, like, again, I think you've talked about this in your notes too, Barry, but like, it's like this idea where he's willing to literally give his own life so everyone else can be safe. And that was it. He's like, you got your dreams. I don't matter that much. So I'm out, dog. I'm going to do everything. And that was the difference, because Sanji was like, I'm going to sacrifice myself to save everybody. And Zoro was like, I can take it. So there's a difference between their own confidence and self-value, because Zoro had no intention of dying whatsoever, but Sanji did, right? And that's just really interesting to have those two. Honestly, I actually really love their dynamic a lot too. There's like there's the fandom has Zoro and Sanji haters fighting each other all the time. I'm like, guys, those two are such good friends. Who else does Sanji fight with that much? Zeph. And he loves Zeph so much. But
also, you can't really bicker with someone that much if you don't care for them.
100%.
Anyone I'm close to, we bicker a lot. Dev and I, we bicker. I bicker with Africa. I bicker with everyone I'm close to. We bicker.
No, that's also like when people talk about love languages. That's one of mine. It's being annoying to you, because it's a lot of people. People obviously care about how they are being perceived. By me being annoying, making those little jokes here and there, maybe teasing you a little bit. I am
being more
letting go of the image that I was like trying to construct, because I'm like, you know what, like, I don't really care about like being like looking cool or mysterious or whatever. Like, I'm just gonna be who I am, like, and like I am comfortable doing that because I know you accept it, which is very similar with Luffy and Sanji, where like Sanji was like, when they were fighting in Whole Cake Island, because Sanji wanted to like go for the wedding, and like the entire time Luffy's, I don't care like if you're doing this, I just want to know, like, tell me what you feel.
Yeah, I don't
like exactly. I just want to know what you feel. Like that's the only important thing.
Yeah, and I think the only time, because in that fight, the only time that Luffy threw hands was when Sanji lied to him. He's just like, nah, you're full of shit. He's tell me how you feel, right? Like, that was the only time. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing arc, man.
Yeah, no, and I would even say, so this arc, I'll share it with you guys. I think maybe Ned and I talked about this. Aziz and you and I haven't had as many opportunities to talk together, but this arc made me realize I need to go back into therapy. So for me, it's not so much my immediate family, and I have unlike Sanji with Judge, I would say my relationship with my dad is probably closer to like Zeph and Sanji, if anything. But because I have a lot of issues with more of my extended family, as my dad got sick, it's very similar to how Sanji's mom got sick. It was actually is very close in comparison to those things, where I became much more distant. And I think like for both of us, both myself and Sanji, when that parent became sick, we became less sheltered by that parent, right? Because my dad would be like, oh no, like Eber's doing this, because my dad's the second eldest in his family. In among his siblings, I should say, he's the second oldest, so there's a lot more seniority that he has, and everyone tends to listen to him most, even though he's the second oldest. So because he's sick and he has dementia, now it's like, actually, I think Aber's stupid. I think he's stupid. I think let's all take a vote. But jokes aside, it made me realize that I'm like, I have to go back. There's actually some quotes from Sanji that I said verbatim, word for word, where I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I got some stuff I got to deal with. And it's funny, like it's an anime that gets you, because people are just for children. I'm like, no, this anime made me reflect on myself. Like even just, so as we were talking about before with the whole Renaissance thing, Sanji is like a cascade of emotions and ways he expresses himself and how he navigates the world. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, from this moment this arc started back in Zou until he opened up to Luffy, he was scornful, he was angry, he was resentful, grief-stricken. He never smiled. Sanji smiles a lot. As much as he can be like the cool jazz smooth criminal, he didn't smile the entire arc. Even with Pudding, when he was like opening up to her, he didn't smile. Sanji did not smile at all for this entire arc. And that, like I said, reminded me of some of my own emotions. We'll get to some of those quotes, but it definitely made me take a step back in terms of reflecting on myself, which I will say this for anyone that's listening that has issues with their extended family, because the thing that I was going to do, luckily I appreciate Africa intervening in those things, is I was actually going to cut off my family indefinitely, just because of my treatment, because it's unhealthy. You're constantly being attacked. As Nedu was saying, you're being attacked from both sides. You know what? I'm going to pull away. But there was two factors. One, Africa getting involved with my relationship with my mom. That changed. So it changed the dynamic. And then my sister having her first son. So I was so closed off from even my sister at that point that I think my eldest nephew, maybe when he listens to this one day, he'll be like, "What, Uncle? You treating me like this?" Yeah, sorry, bro. I'm letting out secrets. But I did not. I think in his first 0 to 6 to 8 months, I picked him up once because I was just so distant. It was only the thing that actually changed was the fact that I had a mentor who was saying like he has like prophecy abilities, which I never took him seriously, but like here I am. He even said like, the way you look at anime and comic books and stuff, and the way you're able to look at life, you're going to start a TV show. And I was like, bro, crazy. And then here we are. He was saying how like my eldest nephew is going to change our dynamic. And the thing is, like, even though I only carried him once, whenever I'd walk into the room, I was the only person he would get excited for. Like he would start screaming and yelling and getting excited. I even have some of the pictures where I was just like,
you were the Shanks of his life.
Bro, I was like, why are you like it got to the point where like, my sister's like, he only does that with you. I'll walk the moment I enter the house, he just starts screaming and yelling. And I'm just like, bro, we don't even hang out like that. Why are you excited for me? But those dynamics really changed my relationship with my family. And I would really encourage anybody who has those same challenges to, shouldn't cut off your family, but you need to find ways of connecting with them in a healthy way.
And I think I wrote something about this where you quoted Sanji telling Judge and the others that like, they're not his family. And it made me think of like how relationships, friendships are like made by coincidence. Oh, you guys are in the same physical space, or you guys are in the same virtual space. You end up becoming friends, but also that runs similar to family. It's a genetic coincidence. You ended up being the child to your parents, right? Like why, as much as like their family, like they've done so much for you, like it's all coincidence, and like why should this have like more of a priority over like other friendships? Because over like other relationships, like friends, like not by blood, because these ones are like made because like they respect your values and respect you, and therefore like it's mutual. Whereas for a family, like, okay, you're born into this family and they mistreat you. Why should I still like, hold you guys to like such a high regard if like you guys do not do the same for me? Yeah, genetic lottery ended up with me being here to get like with you, but that doesn't mean like I should be loyal to you. And if I like we want that for each other, but like the work has to come from both ends.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. When you said one of them, even there's a couple other ones. So for me, I realized this is the exact quote when I was like, oh, okay, now when I get my benefits back, I need to go back in. Sanji, it was when Sanji and Judge were fighting, and Sanji's talking to himself, and he said, "Hey, can I ask you something?" And I've said this exact thing. Do you think a biological parent entitles someone to respect? And I was like, shit. This nigga's quoting me. This nigga's reading my mind. What? That hit hard because for me it was more so like extended family. Are you just because you're my aunt or my uncle, does that mean I owe you respect? Does that mean I owe you a certain? Because within African culture, and this is Caribbean too, by virtue of them being your aunt, your uncle, your parents, you just have to have a certain not even respect, reverence for them. And everything they say or do is just, you know what, Mom? You're right. I will just sell my PlayStation 5. You're right. Why am I having fun? You're right. I should just focus on paying bills and maybe working out.
It's crazy how like a lot of them don't see it as something you earn.
Yeah.
By being a good role model, like this. Because look at like when you respect someone because they tell you so versus you respecting them because of what they've done to you. Like, like the intention affects the outcome so much. And that's how like why people will go to like such lengths for each other. Like today I saw a video of this a father who needed a kidney transplant, and then like he was shocked to find out that the donor was actually his daughter.
Oof.
Someone would only do that if like the father was like an amazing parental figure.
Yep.
Otherwise, yeah, it's like planting a tree. Like you're gonna put in the work now because like at the end it's just gonna come naturally to you. Like it's like karma.
You're watering, you're tending to it. You're tending to that garden, and that's the way relationships are, even if they're biological, right? Like, I really like what you said there. Again, I'm thinking about that story that you said about the father having their daughter donate a kidney and stuff like that, right? So I spent 3 years back when I lived in Winnipeg. I'm actually from Winnipeg, right? Barry knows this, but I was from Winnipeg. I was born and raised there. I worked there for most of my career, and I was doing this job where I was working with men who had like behavioral issues and struggles, and 90% of these men, like if they had kids, there was a terrible relationship. Like it was just a really bad relationship with their kids, and it was like in a very intensive group. It'd literally be like 3 hours a week so every session was 3 hours. It's once a week, and it was 20 weeks. So it's like people do not play. If they go through the whole thing, they're there because they want to be there. And there's whole idea about respect. And so there are a lot of people that started up with some pretty judge-like energy, like where they're just like kids supposed to do this, and you can't come at them immediately because they're very fragile, but they don't know that, right? But so you have to ease them into this conversation. So at some point, there's this idea when the respect comes on, look, I deserve respect. And I'm like, why though? Like, why? What have you done to earn that respect? People need to respect me. I'm like, did you even allow respect to be part of that space though? Like, was respect even in the vicinity, or was it fear? Was it anger? Was it judgment? And so that kind of really shifts the dynamic a lot, because a lot of these parents, and again, in our cultures too, I've got a not great relationship. I don't know my extended family very well because of many circumstances, but my uncle and I do not have a great relationship, one of my uncles, and it was the exact same thing where I realized he was just treating me so shittily. And I just did what he said constantly without even thinking. I was a grown-ass adult at this point too. I was in my mid to early 20s, and all of a sudden I had this moment where, wait, why am I doing this? Especially because I was also doing that group with those men. I'm like, there's something interesting happening here. And the respect is something, like you said, you're tending this garden, you're tending this relationship, you are helping it grow. And if you're not doing that, are they entitled? Don't think so.
I mean, there's this very old saying where I don't know who said it, but it's very ancient, where someone said, society only grows when people sow seeds of plants whose shade they won't be under.
Yes. I think fatherhood or something. Yeah, I know you're talking about. Yeah, it's true.
But it rings true for this context too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And what you're saying is that's exactly why Sanji has such a positive relationship with Zeph. He sowed seeds. Sanji's I've been with him for the last 2.5 years in terms of the show. Probably, if we're to be more realistic in terms of One Piece, was probably like a decade now. But yeah, the last 2.5 years, like Zeph and Sanji haven't seen each other, but the seed of what it means to be a man, what it means to be a caring man, a tender man, a softer man, a dynamic, a Renaissance man, he sowed the seeds into Sanji, where he's carrying those into the future, right? Where even Sanji's, I don't know if I can find the quote immediately. Where is it? Oh, there it is. When Judge asks, "Oh, why did you save us?" Towards the end of the arc, and then Sanji said, "Because my father, Zeph, would be sad. If I were still fixated on the hatred of my childhood, he would be astonished that I turned into such a small man that would laugh off the death of my blood family. I don't want to live a life where I'm too ashamed to face it."
Oda's pen was on fire after writing that. That was a bar and a half.
Yeah.
I think
also, I love that he used the word small man too, like just to hammer the point home that like if I grew up the way you wanted me to be, like I wouldn't be as whole of a person as I am now.
Yeah.
And he didn't use a child, right? Or boy. He said a small man.
Yeah. Love that line. You
yeah,
know,
so that's exactly it. Sorry, you're about to say something, Nedu?
No worries. It's just like, I love that moment at the end of the arc where Judge is just like completely freaking out. I think we were talking about this in the group chat, like in the larger group chat too, where Judge is like actually emotional, like super emotional. He is just he's actually a very emotional person.
Yep.
Like, he focuses his emotions on things that are like harmful to other people, and so he's just like literally crying and screaming. I can't believe you're this, and you're nice, and
You're
you
lying
cook,
to
and you're all
me.
this.
How could
All
you
this,
do this? Where's your honor? Why
all
is this
this.
happening to me? Yeah.
It was so funny, and then he's like yelling all this stuff about Sanji's personality while Sanji's with his crew, and then Luffy's like, "Why is he saying all these nice things about you? What's the problem? I don't get it."
I love that so much.
I don't get it. Because Luffy's like, yeah, you're right. Sanji is very emotional and soft.
Yeah. He's just
Why
like,
is he saying all these things, nice things about you? And Sanji's like, that's, you know what?
He's like, you know what? Sure, fine. Yeah. That's not what he meant, but okay.
And also, correct me if I'm wrong, because like I watched this episode when it aired. So if I recall correctly, Judge was panicking, but his kids were like just chilling, right? Because like, they were all pretty much robots.
I was just about to quote that.
Yeah, and it reminds me of like how a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to be perceived. I don't want to be perceived. So that's why like they have like a lower social media presence. That's why they're more introverted, because like they are like afraid of how other people will see them, right? And this brings me to the next point, which is like how a lot of men like masquerade with like those masculine traits. Like they will be emotionless, be cold to others, like not share, because that's what they see as being masculine, even though it's not exactly what they are as a person. So yeah, like you can pretend to be this like when you're in a safe environment, but like when shit hits the fan, as we saw with Judge, like all that just went out the window, because like that's not truly who he is. And like if you don't really believe in what you're like preaching, so like why should anyone follow you? That's how it all fell down for him.
And no, that's exactly it. And I would say for a lot of our families, the ideal son would be like a Ichiji, a Niji, and a Yonji. I laugh off fear. I'm not affected by anything. But because they're also like that, that's the reason why they were about to get assassinated too.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've even come to terms with, a lot of the Nigerian boys I grew up with, a lot of them, I wouldn't say a lot of them, some of them didn't have the best adult outcomes. I'd word it that way, because they were more along that type of disposition, as opposed to myself, where I'm a little bit on the sensitive side, caring side. And then because of that, when my dad got sick, I was very involved with his physiotherapy and helping him recover, because I have that softer, caring nature to myself. But at the same time, as much as I'm soft and caring, unlike more so my mom and somewhat my sister, I also pushed my dad really hard to recover. I'm like, no, you go get the water. Because, oh no, did physio? I'm like, no, he can go get the water. Because my dad also, when I had my back surgery, it was my dad who helped me push in terms of my recovery, right? You have to have that toughness, because if I were to be super, I guess you could say, nurturing to him, he's never going to really recover. But because like I pushed him, and even till this day, I still push him in the ways I can, it helps him keep going in the ways that like other people wouldn't. But at the same time, I'm still having that softness to me, as opposed to Ichiji, Niji, and Yonji. I almost missed it again. Or even, what was it? I think it was, Ichiji. It was just like, what was it? Don't be pathetic, father. It's already too late for us. He was like, yeah, we're about to die. We're about to go out in the blaze of glory, man. Why are you crying, bro?
Yeah.
Or just said, oh, well.
yeah. Guess I'll just die.
But also like what you just said about tough love reminds me of, so I started going to the gym last year, like right after Christmas.
I can tell with the physique, by the way. Just want to let you know.
Thank you. Damn. Yeah. Appreciate it. So like after a while of lifting, like you end up developing calluses like underneath your fingers. And it resonated with what you described of like tough love, where like you work out and like it sucks in the moment, but like your body's like, you know what, we're gonna toughen your skin up so like it's better for you. But like keep going though. Like I'm gonna give you the push, but that doesn't mean like I'm gonna do the work for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And at the same time, you're not like, you have callus, but it's not like you are constantly scarring yourself to the point where your hand has permanent nerve damage or something, right?
Exactly. And the callus protects you, because like, now your skin is tougher, so you can like, hold on to the weight, like it doesn't hurt anymore.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's the same thing with basketball too, right? If you dunk enough, like when you do certain activities, your hard, certain parts of your body will harden. Guitar players, same thing. Certain parts of your body harden.
And also, apparently with child rearing, if like, let's say like, your toddler like, runs and falls, they're gonna look at you first, and like, if you show concern, they're gonna be like, okay, this is bad, so I should start crying. But like, if you're like, you're good, stand up, they'll just stand up and keep going.
Yeah. this is just a quick aside, but this reminds me of a couple of my friends back in Winnipeg. I remember because their kid, I remember being over their kid. I think he was like their son was like 3 at this time or something like that. But I remember this kid was running around, just ball of energy, just running around, and he just runs headfirst right into the door of their van, just like bam, and falls over. It was actually legitimately hilarious. Like I almost died laughing. I had to hold my mouth because
laughing.
Oh, it was so funny, dog. It was like a cartoon. I almost burst out laughing, but I'm just like, and then I'm just like, okay, I'm actually curious to see how my friends will handle this. And so my friend, because I was friends with the wife and like the husband, I didn't know as well, but like super cool guy. Then so I looked up at my friend. She looked up and then just looked down, just like kept doing what she was doing. And then I looked at the husband. He just looked up and he was already just walking over. And the kid's like, he just calmly sits down. I was like, hey bud, how you doing? He's like, I ran into the bed. He's like, okay, yeah. Are you hurt? Are you scared? He's like, I think I'm scared. He's like, okay, I'm fine. You're fine. Let's get up. And that was it. That was it. I was just like, oh, that was really interesting. Because how many times have we seen that happen? Everybody's like, but he just like literally just did not make a big deal of it. So that's just what you're saying. Like that reaction is so important, right? And it's like, how do you support your children in knowing how to handle that fear or handle when they get hurt, right? That was just some interesting stuff.
No, that's exactly it. And I do that same thing with my nephews. And I would also side point, this is the reason why dads are more fun. Dads and uncles are more fun. Let's call it what it is. My nephews, like, they love being taken. So a great dynamic. Like, my nephews love being taken care of by Deb, but then like Auntie Debwa. But then like when they want to have fun, they're like, all right, Uncle Ed, time to play Captain America and Iron Man. We're Captain America.
Yeah,
I'm Iron Man. That's when they're just about to play cops and robbers. I'm the robber. You're the cop. I'm about to go steal some stuff. That's because it's a little bit more energetic. There's that free play as opposed to like nurturing. Yeah, you'll make sure you're eating, but you'll get food. But then it's also, hey, don't have too much fun. You might get hurt. And it's no, let's let him get hurt. Not too bad, but let him get hurt because he has to experience and do things. So yeah definitely that dynamic. And even in a lot of ways, like to kind of coalesce some of the ideas, it makes me think of when you guys know that a lot of there's some generations that like they grew up with online games, but for us we didn't have that. There was a point in our kind of like teens-ish where shoot, like I can play with Shahid
other people
and he's at home.
Yeah.
What? And when I first started playing online, it was like fighting games and stuff. And like my sister and my mom, like I've talked about this many times, but I think it's worth tying it together where like they would just walk into the room and they don't talk to me, they talk at me. You guys know the difference between being talked at. And they would just talk at me and they would just stand in front of, because it was the same TV, they would just stand like right here and they would just talk at me. And I'm just like, I can't listen. They didn't ask to pause it, just start talking at me. They would ask me, and then like after I'm done, because I have to play the match again because I obviously lost. Because you're standing literally in the middle of the screen talking at me. I'd ask, like, well, first of all, couldn't you just wait? One, and then two, I didn't hear anything you just said. You actually just wasted your entire 5-minute rant because I wasn't listening. And it was only like my dad would walk in, and this goes into the whole respect thing, which I know sometimes they equate me listening to him is because he just has a penis and he's a man. And it's like, no, it's because I remember when he first started playing online, he'd be like, can you pause the game? Because that's what he would first do. And I'm like, I actually can't. I'm playing someone in Italy right now, and I can't tell him to pause. Unfortunately, I don't speak Italian, first of all, so I couldn't even ask him to pause. And so he was like, okay, so like you can't do that. Okay, so come and see me when you're done playing. And that's the dynamic he would have. So he even got to a point where he like, are you playing online or are you playing offline? And he's like, if it's offline, he's like, could you pause for a moment? I'm like, cool. If it's online, okay, come see me when you're done playing. And that was a respect dynamic that really, I'm like, okay, he's meeting me where I'm at, as opposed to, I don't know, shaming me where I'm at for doing the thing I'm doing. And that really changed our dynamic. And like I said, when it comes to Zeph and Sanji really acknowledged, like when Sanji got really excited about, I think it was when they were stranded when he first mentioned All Blue, right? Or was it after?
It was before. I think I feel like he mentioned something about the All Blue before that because that's why Zeph saved him. I'm sorry, it's been years since I've read/watched it, so I can't quite remember. But I think there was a reason why Zeph chose to save Sanji before even.
Okay, fair enough.
I
can't remember, but I remember that's
remember.
like that connecting point is when they. Now I'm getting the phone call. It's okay.
Wait, wasn't it like it's been like close to a decade since I watched this, but was it that Sanji was on this random ship and Zeph was a pirate that like raided the ship, and then like something happened to the ship, they were in the water, and like he only saw Sanji, and that's why he just saved him.
I think so, and then he gave Sanji his leg, and something about his leg being sacrificed, which means that he can't
so
anymore.
In the anime, like, they had a random rope or something cut off his leg, but in the manga, like, he gave all the food to Sanji and ate his own leg.
His own leg,
that was
pretty metal. Yeah, he ate his own leg. Gave Sanji all the food. Yeah. Oh, boy. And he said specifically, he's like, "Why'd you do that for me?" Because we share the same dream. That's what Zeph said. The reason why he did that is because we share the same dream. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's why you saw that. Even going what we're talking about in terms of reverence when it comes to our culture, but like, Sanji didn't just have respect for Zeph; he had reverence for him, and still does
because he earned it.
Yeah,
there you go. Respect. Yeah. As much as I don't like NBA 2K games, there's a quote I think it's from probably before him, but there's a Kyrie Irving image in the game. Is respect is earned, not given.
Yeah,
and that's what's not talked about. I think everyone deserves a base level of respect just as a human being. But if you're expecting that level of a higher level of respect or even reverence, right?
Yeah.
You have to earn that.
Yeah.
And sorry, go ahead.
No, you please.
Oh, thank you. I was gonna say that, like, it reminds me earlier of the point that I mentioned with how, like, when you're like the first or second born, like your parents are like still like practicing being parents. So when online gaming became a thing for me, it was like around the PlayStation 3 era where I started playing Call of Duty online. My parents, because like we lived in the Middle East, like it's a whole it's console from like a different country in a different language, and my parents would walk in and start talking to me while I'm playing online. I'd be like, "Oh, I can't, I'm playing online." They're like, "How dare you?" And they just like pull the wire out, unplug the PlayStation.
Classic.
And so like from that end of the spectrum, you're like, damn, that was so unnecessary. Like, if you just listen to me for a second, I wouldn't be like so upset, and like you wouldn't be like so stressed out right now. And then like, on the flip side, like, I have situations where like, I wake up in the middle of the night like, sick, throwing up and stuff, and my parents, no questions asked, immediately take me to the hospital. Don't make me feel like I ruined their night or something. And then I'm like, oh damn, that's, you look at the level of empathy, and then like, you look at like how the PlayStation situation, how like that is so small, like in the grand scheme of things, you're like, okay, they're human.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But like with Judge, like it's just like a very like solid line. Wow, that guy's like at the end, like that guy's a lost cause.
Yep.
And that's why like I empathize a lot with like how harsh Zeph was with like Sanji, because like you only put pressure on like a child or an offspring because they can do better.
Yeah, and it was a pressure that was to foster Sanji as a person as opposed to as a tool, because there's a difference between the pressure, air quotes, that Judge was putting on his kids. It wasn't really pressure; they were just tools, literally. And then Sanji couldn't keep up, so he's like, "I'm not even going to waste time with you." But like you said, like he put that pressure. Zeph put that pressure on Sanji. He invested in Sanji as a person. He supported what Sanji cared for. He also taught him how to be a man, right? It's Sanji's part of Sanji's whole chivalry. He's like, why can't I, like, why do you only do this? Why don't you do this to the women? I was like, you think I'm going to kick a woman? Fuck you, kicks him. Don't you ever treat women like that. He really instilled this sense of sticking to your guns and being. Sanji's principles are one of his most defining traits, right? His very strong principles are one of his most defining traits, and those principles were fostered by a person that deeply invested in him, right? There was that brutalness, but there was also that love, and that was both of those things were in that relationship,
right? And like you just, sorry, go ahead, Eb.
No, I was just gonna say, to just go off what Nedu said, like still to this day, as much as Ifrit Jamb and like his fight with Jabra, I love those fights, but like my favorite scene for Sanji, I would say there's quite a few like honorable mentions in Whole Cake, but like my
Mhm.
favorite scenes from Sanji, I don't know if you guys remember. I don't even remember in detail because I watched it like years ago now. But like on Punk Hazard, there was a point where I think Gas was about to enter a room,
Yeah.
and Sanji saved the Marines.
Yes.
Despite the Marines trying to hunting them and trying to kill them and capture them, Sanji saved the Marines. I'm like, this is why you're my favorite character. Yeah, he has this cool scenes, but I'm like, this, no, this is why I love Sanji. Because
also this reminds me of another scene back in CP9 arc when I think Luke, I don't remember exactly, but like there was something about the island being surrounded by like giant, like
call.
Like something like they were like their island was like surrounded by water, but then like in between the water and the ocean there was like some space where like water would just like fall down. And I don't remember what exactly Sanji did because like it's been close to a decade, but like he did something super clever while like he redirected the water currents or something.
Yeah, and he had the gates open so that they could escape.
This is what made me fall in love with Sanji. Like the guy was like I said earlier, like very a cascade of emotions and like traits. Like he was like multifaceted. So like, he's a great cook, but also he's a fighter, but also he's super clever. And also when he was talking, remember like when he called Crocodile and he was like, "Oh, who are you?" And he's like, "I'm Mr. Prince." Mr. Prince, don't worry about it, no.
Prince?
Le Crap Cafe.
Dude, like he is just so cool. Also, like, remember when Robin first joined the crew? And yes, Sanji has always been a simp, but like he used to be suave too. Remember, he would like, hand him drinks, but like, he would like, do it so flamboyantly. Exactly. He had no reason to do that. Like, Judge said like, royalty doesn't serve, but that man was serving, bro. That guy was serving. It was crazy.
Literally.
Actually, given that, I want to ask you guys a question about this because I think this is super interesting, right? So Sanji is a man of service. Like this is something that I think really defines his character, right? Can you be a man of service and still center yourself?
What do you mean by center yourself?
That's what I was about to say. What do you mean by it?
So I guess, and again, I guess that's part of the thing because it can mean a bunch of things. But Sanji really spends a lot of time focusing and taking care of other people a lot, right? That's the thing. Like even
that's a defining trait of his. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like saving Kinemon, saving the Marines, like just it doesn't matter who it is. If there's a person who needs help, taking care of a mouse in Onigashima, just saving that mouse immediately, right?
While fighting Queen, yeah.
Exactly. And so he really does that. And I would say early on, and I think this has shifted, we'll talk about it, but I think early on, those acts were because Sanji cared, but also they reflected a little bit of his lack of self-worth, right? It's like he was constantly sacrificing himself for other people. It's just, can Sanji still do those things and still have higher self-worth? Because I think in our world, we tend, especially with men, we seem to have this binary idea of you're one or the other, right? I'm just curious what you guys think of that, and if Sanji's able to still do that and then also still value himself.
Like, this reminds me of what I wrote about being a self-martyr, where you would put everything else on top of yourself. And this reminds me of like, something that my dad did when I was around in middle school. We lived a comfortable life, fortunately, but I remember this one point where I only learned this a couple of years ago, where my mom was like, "Did you know that like, for 6 months your dad was out of a job?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And then she was like, "Oh, like back in like 6th grade for you, like he didn't have a job." And I'm like, "Yeah, but literally there was not a day where like he didn't go to work in the morning." She was like, "Oh yeah, like he'll just leave in the morning and then come back in the afternoon, so you kids wouldn't know." And like that reminds me of like the whole like self-martyr, where like you'll put others' needs in front of you as like a sign of love. But while that is completely commendable, like it is, I won't say completely, but partially toxic, because you're only human. You can only go so far before the whole thing just falls down and crashes. And yeah, that's why I think at some point you need to center yourself either by yourself, at least have a social support net, at least like one person that can be like, "Hey, you can't do this by yourself." And I feel like One Piece like builds on that phenomenally, like amazingly, with like the whole Nakama prospect, where like, oh yeah, we all got each other's backs, but like, also we all sacrifice for each other, but also like we all know that I can't sacrifice myself because that'll upset them.
Yeah. And it'll throw off the whole dynamic because now someone is gone, if you will. Yeah. There's a lot. You guys both said a lot of things. I would say so. First, I would say yes. The answer to point blank answer your question, I would say yes. I would say a perfect example of that would be Sanji's fight with Queen, in the sense of, and once again, because Sanji's so nuanced and multifaceted, a Renaissance man, and we in terms of
Renaissance man could be a stage name.
Sorry, a
Renaissance man could be a stage name. It goes hard.
Right? The Renaissance man is here. Like what? Right, but no, because we have a hard time seeing men in different facets. And when I say we, I'm not talking because we always like to make things binary. It's all women's fault. No, us men too. Yeah. We have a hard time seeing men like that. It's the reason why there's universal claim for Zoro, and Sanji is a very controversial character. Sanji is more of a modern interpretation of masculinity in a lot of ways, and we have a hard time wrestling that. If Sanji was more like Ichiji, who was just like, yeah, I'm about to die, let me smile. Oh, what a man! What a man! What a man! What a man! How you good, man? Let's call it what it is, right? Like we love, as much as there's layers, but like we love that scene of Zoro saying nothing.
But also, sorry, before you move on, like the bit you just mentioned with Ichiji, where like he was smiling before he was gonna die, it looks it reads like a toxic mirror to like how people with the will of D in their name like die smiling because they die satisfied knowing they lived their life like to its full extent, whereas he was dying smiling because like, whatever, it doesn't matter to me. Like I feel like I just thought it was interesting to note.
Exactly. Yeah. What was I saying? So yeah, we have a hard time seeing men in those facets. So I really would say like Sanji's fight with Queen is the perfect example of that. And like I said, Sanji's a very controversial character because there's that perfect scene we talked about in the group chat where he asks Robin to come save him. Yeah. And we saw in that scene, the women were just like, oh, he's about to. And that's what Sanji would have done, which is what men are expected to do. You're supposed to fall on your sword to protect everybody else, especially women and children. And Sanji said, Robin, please come save me. And the women were like, oh my God. Like prior to this, they were just like, oh, he's about to sacrifice himself. I'm so wet. I want him, but he's my enemy. Da, da, da. And then, oh my gosh, he's about to tell, I forgot her name, the Oira, and I forgot her name. I think it was like Widow or something like that. And she was
Black Maria.
Black Maria, there we go. And she was just like, oh, he's about to tell her to eat shit. Da, 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 da. What a man. And then he was like, Robin, please come save me. And they're like, wow, I'm so dry. I'm so turned off. He's a bitch.
That was the perfect payoff to Whole Cake Island, in my opinion.
It was. And once again, it's a controversial scene. And there's a lot of things I'd want to say that. So one, it was that. And also the thing I loved about that scene, which we don't talk about, is not just the women shame Sanji for it, but the men too. Oh, this guy's a bitch. He's calling a woman to come save him. What a loser.
Yeah.
What beta? Like they were just they were listing on Sanji. And then even one of Sanji's crewmates, which I love, because we're always expecting like the Straws to be so progressive and like thoughtful. And frankly, I would die before I call a woman to save me. I would. And
Frankie said that, right?
Yeah, Frankie said that.
Frankie was like, I will die if I ask a woman to come save me. And that's part of his crew, right? Yeah. So we're even seeing how men are critiquing Sanji for this thing, but that's exactly what it means. Because he was able to do that, he was actually had the capacity to fight Queen. Yeah. And as much as he was fighting Queen, he was protecting that maid, and he was protecting the little mouse at the same time. So he was able to be a lot of things at the same time. But unfortunately, as men, we don't really know how to see men in those dynamics where they can call for help, that they can ask for help. Yeah. It's no wonder why things like self-deletion is such a high rate, because everyone shames men for asking for help. Yeah. And I would even say, I'm glad we got here. I don't think I would have appreciated the scene when I was 16. I see this when it comes to, I don't know if you guys played any of the God of War games, but the latest one, I've seen how a lot of the young guys, it's a little bit controversial of a game. Yo, Kratos is developing a healthy relationship with his son. I didn't come here to watch him with his son. I'm here to kill ogres. So I'm here to kill dragons. Where are the dragons? I'm not trying to rekindle my loving relationship with my son.
That reminds me of
$70 for this. Sorry, you were saying
that reminds me of this like Logic, the rapper. he had this track a few years ago where he was like,
I know
think,
Logic,
like,
by the way.
yes, there was this album that he had a few years ago, and in this album, like in one of his tracks, where he was talking about that now, like he's married, like he streams, like he's a comfortable life, he has a kid, and then he's, oh, a lot of people are like, I think he had a bar where he was like, a lot of people saying, oh, you're not as hard anymore, you don't rap about being from the hood anymore, and he's, I already went through a hard life once. Why should I recreate it again for you cunts? And I'm like, that is completely valid. Just because the struggle is like entertaining to watch, that doesn't mean like it's worthwhile for the person themselves.
100%. Like, it's interesting. Oh man, the whole monetization of Black suffering is another thing that's just a total other. We can go, but anyway, just to come back to the point before I go on a
Trauma.
Yeah. Oh my god. And it's
there. I'll stop there.
No, yeah, you're not wrong. You are not. I fully agree. But it's just, so I think we also talked about this before a little bit, but like just the whole, like that, the whole thing with Sanji, and I think like just him being able to call for help, like you said, it's a perfect mirror to what happened in Whole Cake. Like it was just this great moment too. Like you said, again, I really appreciate it. Like the whole, like, oh, he's gonna do this really cool thing, and then he just doesn't, and then both men and women are like, oh, what the fuck? Like it's so interesting too, because like I think Abby, you and I may have talked about this a little bit, but if you go back to Enies Lobby, right, where Sanji had like this wonderful line that really stick to me when I was a kid, but it was interesting because like I've been reading One Piece since I was like 15 years old. Like it's wow. Wow. And so I remember, it's just this moment where he was at Enies Lobby and was talking to Usopp, because Usopp has confidence issues.
Soge King, you mean? Don't disrespect.
You know what? Usopp wasn't there with Soge King. There's no reports of Usopp being on Enies Lobby at all. Fake news if people say that he was there. So he was talking to the venerated Soge King with a kick-ass theme song, by the way. Like
I still have it on my phone.
It's so good. Yes. Like he's saying to Soge King, he's just like, hey, you do the things that you can't do, and I'll do the thing. You do the things that I can't do, and I'll do the things that you can't do. We all cover each other. And he said that, and it was such a beautiful line. But what's interesting, of course, is that when he was fighting Kefla, he didn't ask for help. He just completely got washed, both literally and figuratively.
Turned into a soap man.
Yeah, exactly. And Nami's like, you dummy, ask for help. And he's just like, he just couldn't do it. He couldn't put a woman in danger, and he also felt like he had to do everything on his own. Seeing that come full circle in Onigashima.
That's a good connection. I did not. Wow.
Yeah, okay, no, it was a whole. We were talking about it because, well, yeah, we were all talking about it because I was like, I didn't understand why they kept doing the reference of Robin asking to be saved and Sanji asking. Like, I didn't get it until Aziz, you broke it down. I was like,
no, I also like I completely forgot about the Khalifa fight now, like how like Sanji would not hit women ever. Like I forgot about that whole point, but like now, wow, like this is like the natural progression for his character.
Absolutely. It was really interesting too, because Nico Robin's also the character that they're all literally every Straw Hat's, we will die to protect you. How dare you even look at her? And but Sanji was able to ask her for help. A, because he's like, okay, but I'm gonna ask someone to do the thing I can't do, and B, I trust her. I trust her enough to win. There was a lot of things happening in that moment, and him being able to grow from that moment in Endy's lobby is just, again, that's that level of masculinity where, hey, I am also confident enough in myself and the people connection I have that I'm going to ask for help. And then, like you said too, I'm going to go do something else useful. I'm going to go do the thing other people can't do, which was to defeat King.
And I'd also like to talk to this point. I saw it in the anime. The one with Rudius.
Mushoku Tensei?
I can't remember the English name, funny enough.
I've never watched that one.
2 thumbs up. It's
something reincarnation.
Yeah, something reincarnation. It's funny how like I just know the Japanese name, but I don't remember the English name.
Jobless reincarnation.
Thank you. Yes. Mm-hmm. I would say it's a very bastardized way of me paraphrasing it, because I know the people how dare it's like a male version of Freyrin.
Okay, interesting. All right.
Oh, well, a lot of people would hate that comparison.
Of course they would, but is this like, in terms of mages and magic and adventuring from that dynamic, very watered down. To simplify, because I can't really think of a way of talking about it. Maybe like Freyrin meets Sword Art Online.
Okay, I like Farron, so I'm
like in terms of isekai.
Yeah.
Kirito is like a weird, perverse old man who's a child who has Freyrin powers. But anyways, this is an aspect in the show where they actually touch on ED, erectile dysfunction. In both scenes, the thing I love about, like with Sanji asking for help with Robin, is that like how the women were very conscious of their male counterparts' vulnerability.
Yeah.
And not being weaponized and not using it. Because that's another thing too that you need to talk about. Like, yeah, we want men to ask for help, but you also need to not shame him for asking for help when you guys get into argument. And you saw when Black Maria, she was ripping into Sanji. She was like, your false white knight who is a bitch.
Yeah, it was so like, brutal.
She was ripping into him. And then, you know, the thing that Robin said was like, if Sanji asks for help, there's a reason, because he's a kind man.
Yeah.
And that was it. And you like, I was like, yo, Robin, why are you so A1 like that? Like, why are you
Robin's
also, I feel like it's also like partially him getting over like his own misogyny, because before that, like he wouldn't rely on women like for help like that, because women don't fight, women stay safe, like women do other things.
Flowers.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So now he's like, no, women are capable and strong. Robin, she's here, she can help me out. That I don't see her like a lesser combatant or lesser person just because she's a woman, and it paid off for him both emotionally and physically in that space.
Yeah, it did. And then he was able to defeat Queen from that, because we all know if he was completely battered, he wouldn't have been able to fight Queen.
No, that would not have gone well.
Yeah. And so all these different scenes with Sanji, I feel like I said, like when people, I remember talking to one of my young guys, I remember him even saying, like, bro, I'm out here doing, I actually enjoyed, I never replayed any of the God of War games, like all of them. And Ragnarok, I platinum. I actually got all the trophies.
Huh?
And yeah, I was about it. I was like, yo, what? I was about to toast everybody. But anyways, I remember when I was talking to one young man, and he was saying like, bro, I'm out here trying to kill dragons, and I have to be Kratos' son on a date. What? I was like, I love that scene. I was like, this is great. And then I get to play as his son, and I loved it. And then I'm like, there's that scene where him and his son rekindle. I'm like, this is peak. This is peak cinema right here. But if I was like trying to make, where's the giant wolf I was fighting? I didn't pay $70 to play Father-Son Simulator. I came here to play.
So funny. Father-Son Simulator.
Oh,
I came here to kill giant wolves and dragons. Like, what is this? Giant zombie wolves, I should even say. Giant zombie wolves and dragons. Like, what is this? But like when you get old, I think you can appreciate those things. Even for me, thinking about, there's some issues I had with Iron Man 3, but Tony Stark having PTSD and whatnot, I didn't like it. I was like, why is Iron Man a bitch? Like, why is he so emotional right now? Because he was in a wormhole.
Yeah.
He almost died a year ago. Who wouldn't have PTSD? But for me, I'm supposed to be stoic, very Zoro-esque once again. But at the same time, he's supposed to still be building suits. No, he's traumatized. That's why he's building so many suits.
Yeah.
I don't know if either of you reads Berserk.
Not yet. I will.
Okay. I've watched. I made the mistake of watching the Golden Egg arc when I was still living with my parents.
I watched that too. Yeah. Oh boy.
I was just like, I remember when, what's it called? Griffin was doing the thing. I don't want to say the great scene. And I was just like, oh, I need to lower the volume. And I was just watching it because it's on this TV. Wasn't watching on my laptop. And I was like, I'm really.
Man, I swear, like parents have sensors. Like they're like, someone's watching something wrong.
Again,
I was so stressed. I was so stressed about my mom walking in the room and then saying, "What are you watching?" And I'm like, "It's anime." Oh, this is anime.
Yeah,
this is the anime you watch.
Guys, I'm sorry, guys.
Just call your aunts on both sides, the Trinity and Nigerians. I'm about to call them.
Oh my god!
We're about to have a conversation about it. We're about to have an intervention. Don't worry.
Just as a very quick aside, like, I was watching. My parents were here visiting me, and I was watching Delicious in Dungeon because there's like very little. There's almost no fan service. Delicious in Dungeon.
Okay.
This is safe. This is something I can watch.
Senshi.
Was that?
Just the best mom, Senshi.
Oh yeah, there's some real Senshi, steamy Senshi fan service, legitimately, and I'm like, you know what? Fair.
It is called Delicious in Dungeon. Just
Oh, there's some delicious Sanji. Anyway, sensual she. Okay, I'm done. Anyway, so my parents were. So I'm watching it on my thing over there, and I'm like, this is safe. Literally, the one scene where two women are bathing together, and it's not even played to be titillating, but that scene just popped up, and my parents look up, and I'm just like, I don't know what I thought this was safe. I don't know, like, it's anime. I should have known this would happen. It's my fault. This is on me. My parents.
You should just put on Bleach, bro.
That's what.
But then again, someone like blowing up probably wouldn't help your cause either.
Or like Rangiku hugging the captain. I forget his name. The short ice captain. Just like hugging him.
It's a guy.
And they were like,
yeah. There's just don't even try. When parents are around, don't watch anime. That's just the rule.
Yeah, that's why I watch it on my laptop or phone.
I'm like my big age of 37. You think I would have figured that out? No. Anyway, sorry.
The reason I brought up Berserk was to show that some Berserk's fans split into two, similarly to like how One Piece fans either idolize like Zoro or like Sanji for the very different reasons. So obviously Berserk has like the very like grotesque like horror action sequences that are like dark, and like a lot of guys are like, oh, like man, the giant sword, like fighting demons. I'm all about that shit. That's metal as fuck. And then you have the other part, which is like getting over the trauma. Half the series is like this guts like trying to come into terms with his own emotions and like getting over like grieving, getting over his suffering and loss, and trying to be like one of my favorite quotes from Vinland Saga, which is when Thorfinn says, I want to be a gentler, kinder person. That is literally Berserk too, because like it's similar themes going through the story, but like I just love stories where like the protagonist has like no role models, so like they just suffer through life, and then at some point they're like, it's so much like having people around you, and it's like being a good person is like so much less emotionally taxing. I don't know if you guys read Vinland Saga's manga, but if you look at Thorfinn like as a teenager, like his face is like always like scrunched and angry, and then if you look at the art style, like the author deliberately makes the art style softer to match how Thorfinn is like more like now more calm and more like chill,
serene.
Yeah,
exactly. Like I just think I feel like that's like a good, I guess, like biography to follow, because like you're like, wait, like that didn't work out for him, so like why should I do the same thing? Let's go through the same pitfalls.
Yeah.
And I would also touch on this. I think one day we'll get things like Vagabond and Berserk properly animated. I think one day we'll get Vagabond animated. I think we're a long ways away from that. And I say that because people did not well receive. I think you both probably enjoyed Vinland Saga season 2.
I like it more than season 1.
Okay. You've seen our conversations in the group chat and when we hang out. Vinland Saga, just like Sanji, just like I said, God of War Ragnarok, just like Vinland Saga season 2, or even as Aziz brought up with Berserk, it's very controversial because we don't really have a nuanced way of looking at men beyond, I guess you could say, Andrew Tate stoic trauma decision making, and because that's
but also like I feel like controversial. I was gonna say that controversial doesn't really cover it because the shows will have fans, but like the fans divide. Like how
that's what I mean by controversial.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like controversial doesn't really hit it because like most people will love Thorfinn.
Oh, divisive.
Yeah, like, some people are like, oh, I love Thorfinn. Yeah, which one? The teenager one. Why? Because he was so like cool and badass. But like on the flip side, you're like, oh yeah, but he's always in pain and suffering, and he's traumatized. Yeah, so you're not really looking beneath the surface. You're just looking at like the cool action sequences. Are you watching the show or are you looking at the show?
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, I like that. Are you watching or are you just looking at it? Right.
Like, I think so. I think we'll still. I think this. What I think is for Vinland Saga, I think it'll have to be like the sacrificial lamb for seinen anime.
That's right. What do you mean?
In a sense of it's going to be a series like when it. I think we'll get all of Vinland Saga animated. I don't know.
Especially with how the manga's going to end this year, definitely.
Okay, there we go. I think we're going to get all animated, but I don't think it's going to be like a variegated series until a decade later. If you get what I'm trying to say, by the general anime watching community. Obviously, Vinland Saga fans know what Vinland Saga is, like us.
Yeah,
but like just the average watcher who's just Vinland Saga.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Because like I feel like the manga fans and anime fans are like two different beasts. if you go to people who primarily look at manga, they'd be like, oh yeah, Vinland Saga is amazing. I might have not watched it, but I know it's venerated. If you go to anime fans, they're whatever is on Netflix, whatever is on Disney, whatever's more accessible. Whereas manga fans, because like manga's less accessible, they end up doing more of the work to seek it out.
True.
And they end up like seeing like the more hidden gem. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think like from that standpoint, I think like from there we will see more. We start having more of a nuanced approach and understanding of masking. I think we can then start seeing more seinen series, because a lot of the seinen series tend to go like even Psychopaths seinen series. A lot of them tend to go under the radar because it's nuanced as opposed to Sasuke trying to assassinate his brother.
Yep. And another example is Trigun, the new reboot. I don't know if either of you has watched like, the older one.
I like both. Yeah.
Yes. The older one was like everyone loves it, but I feel like we also look at it with like, rose-tinted glasses, because like, the new one came out gorgeous, but some people are like, oh, CGI 3D animation automatically bad. He's being like,
what year did
no, it was.
Sorry, I think it was 2023 or something like that.
2 years ago or so, I think.
Yeah, I think it was
I was like, it's the best. This is the best anime production I've seen.
Dude, the studio is phenomenal. It's the same studio that did Beastars. Like, they're like CGI is like their game. They're amazing.
Incredible.
At it. CGI, as long as you get the model, I feel like you can play with the camera work so much, and we've seen that to an A.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, a lot of like when the first couple of episodes came out, people are like, "Oh, he's." People are calling him a bitch.
As usual, that's like, usually what men are called when they're not.
And I feel like, I feel like if someone looks at a character like that, and like that's their first reaction, you're like, okay, like you're way too immature, or like you need to consume like more media, or like, I don't know, gain some more media literacy. Because if you want to watch like cool men fight, like just go watch MMA, man. Like why are you watching a series?
Yeah, literally, they just want. Like I said, we don't have a nuance way of looking at it. So, like I said, we see Sanji ask for help. We're seeing. Father-son simulator in terms of God of War. It's a lot. It's very hard for us to see these dynamics. But for me, I played all the God of Wars except for the PSP one.
I played like two, the PS2 one, and like the one they made for the PS4 before the one before Ragnarok, I think.
Yeah, God.
God.
Yeah, I played all of them. I beat them all in hard mode, and then like I said, Ragnarok, I platinum. God of War 2018, I nearly platinum it. I was just like, what was it? Searcher's Challenge. I was like, I did something. I was like, I'm going to get angry. I know I'm going to get angry. I'm not going to do this. So I can tell. If I know I'm going to get upset, I'm like, why am I putting myself in the space to be upset?
That's why I never finished the Zeus fight.
See, there you go. Zeus fight was long.
That fight was bullshit, man.
Oh my God.
That's when I hated the game for not having health bars.
Oh yeah, when you're fighting Zeus, right?
Yeah, like I think the whole every boss doesn't have a health bar at all. If I remember
correctly.
He's right.
You know, by the set it's changing. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. But yeah, that'd be annoying.
I'm gonna go back
especially as a 13-year-old.
I've never noticed until you said
does it end?
Yeah. Yeah. We have a hard time seeing those nuanced things, and I don't think it's gonna be some time before we see all these series. People, how come we're not getting these series? I'm like, people aren't ready for what Berserk is. People have a hard time just adjusting to Vinland Saga.
Yeah, and also it's so embarrassing because
where's the violence? Where's the Sakuga?
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned this because I think it's embarrassing for if people don't already appreciate it in shonen, because shonen in Japan is directed to 13-year-old boys. If media for 13-year-old boys. You can't grasp all of it as a grown-ass man. I think you're a lost cause. Or you need therapy. I don't know.
Yeah. Like it's really disappointing. Like maybe disappointing, and then maybe there's I'm sure there's larger like cultural reasons for many why this is the case. But it's like it's also the case too that I wish that there just nuanced conversations around these characters. Like if we're looking at how many videos do you watch, and again this is a bit of an aside, but now one of the favorite YouTube, the algorithm's favorite things is so and so versus so and so isn't even close, and it's just and so I'm just like, I don't care about that. And don't get me wrong, that could be fun, but they're so popular. So you're looking so how many times do we see power scaling between Sanji, Luffy, Zoro, and now Jinbei? Because the fact that Jinbei has a higher value than Sanji, hilarious. Honestly, that was super funny.
Yeah, I was like, this is disrespectful to my boy Sanji, but I'm like, Sanji, you're not just a fighter.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry,
whole thing.
I have a weird question.
Oh yeah.
On the Sunny Go, prior to Jinbei joining, was that thing in the seat there at the helm? Was that always there?
The chair?
Yeah, I don't remember ever seeing.
I don't remember
I don't
it
know
either,
actually.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It just
like
appeared to me on
Nami.
Homepage. I was like,
I would. That's interesting. I don't actually.
I feel like
know.
it's one of those things that like Oda does in the background that like he won't mention unless. Do you guys read the manga?
I do.
Yeah, so like, you know how like the SBS is like
SBS, he'll probably
ask
like,
a random question and then be like, "Oh yeah, I'm glad you noticed it because like, no one else did." He does things like that all the time.
yeah,
I feel like
wasn't there.
I feel like it's gonna be one of two things. One, it'll be like the case that because there's this like mysterious builder / engineer that's like in the One Piece world, so it'll either be like, oh, he came and built it when no one was looking, or it'll be like Frankie had it in there but no one knew, but they decided to press the button and the chair came up. It'll be one of those.
Yeah, no, I remember that specific one because I remember like in this one manga chapter there was like an error where like someone broke a door and then in the next page the door was completely fine, and then someone asked me SBS like, "Oh, Oda, was this an error? What happened?" Is actually there's like a One Piece builder who nobody sees because like he's so fast and quick, and then he actually made him an actual character in Wano. It was so funny.
Yeah,
what?
The little dude with the nails in his nose.
That Frankie was working under that. Yeah.
So like it makes me like think. Like how many times does he like throw in little things and he's like, "Oh, I just hope someone notices like 4 years from now."
Yeah, because I was looking at it, I was just like, because first I was like, first of all, that bar around the helm was never there.
Yeah.
And then after that, I noticed Jinbei was sitting down, and I'm like, there was never a seat here. There was never a seat. I know there was never a seat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I remember that too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so funny.
But yeah, you were saying Nedu about Jinbei and the
Oh.
bounties and stuff.
Yeah, it's just I feel don't get me wrong. I know it's shonen and stuff like that, and so I get it. Obviously, power scaling is always going to be a thing. I'm not completely opposed to power scaling. I just generally find it the least interesting conversation to have. Oftentimes, when it comes to these things, and people are asking about the power scaling between Zoro and Sanji and getting really angry about that. I'm like, I feel like you're just missing the point of these characters. I feel like because again, I know it's a shonen series, it's for young boys, but at the same time, it's been pretty clear that Sanji and Zoro have very different roles within, both within the crew and within the larger story. But again, it doesn't matter who is stronger. The point is that they complement each other, that they cover each other's back. When Sanji asked Zoro to kill him, if something happens, if he becomes different and completely loses emotions, lose who he is, he only trusted Zoro to do it. And Zoro's like, I don't understand, but don't worry, I will make it quick. Like those two care about each other. They know exactly what to do when shit hits the fan.
Yeah, actually funny you bring that up because it reminds me of like people still arguing who's stronger, like between Vegeta or Gogeta in Dragon Ball. Like the two
Vegeta, yeah.
Can you like talk about like other interesting things?
Yeah.
I never watch, and I always get recommend those things. I'm like, I genuinely don't.
No.
I don't care about. I would say maybe I cared when I was like a teenager. Sanji or stronger, Rock Lee and Sasuke. Now I'm just like, Rock Lee's probably the fourth strongest in Naruto, and that's just it's pretty obvious he destroyed a meteor by himself. And I'm like, but he's obviously not stronger than Martians.
But also, on the flip side, I think it's like worth keeping in mind that there's always going to be like young boys getting into One Piece, and like that discourse is like fresh to them. So
yes,
I'll say these memes. I'll be like, who cares, and just move on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. Like it's. I think it's definitely exhausting when you see older people, but when you see younger people, yeah, of course. And it's just like, hey, like they'll also grow with the series. I think we were actually all talking about this in our group chat, where it's just like starts off as this really like again, One Piece is this fun loving thing. I'm going on an adventure, yay! And then it's just like now genocide and slavery and all that. Like you were just saying that, and it's just like the series matures with its audience in some ways, but I also understand young people are still going to get into it. So maybe it's also okay to give them a chance to mature and catch up with it too, because the story is otherwise they'll just get left behind by the story, right? Like, otherwise they'll fall off like, oh, it's not enough cool punching and kicking. No, this is the story that's being told, and this was part of the story.
Yeah, even for me, having okay, so I watched Dressrosa. I think in give a ballpark or 2017, 2018, and then I haven't watched One Piece till these last few months. And with me being 35 and watching One Piece, I'm like, and having a masculinity lens on things, I'm like, I have a greater appreciation of Oda, like far higher appreciation. I'm like, the way this guy approaches masculinity in so many different nuanced ways. The fact that he has Sanji and Zoro in the same show.
Yeah.
Absolute
Yeah.
cinema.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Cinema. Make a meme out of this. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's and that, for me, that's crazy. I'm just like, wow. Like I said, the whole asking for help and all this stuff. Yeah, this is what we need in a show. And as opposed, and I'm looking at this where we were talking about, where I was like, remember, flip a coin. Do you want to be my friend? And then now it's just like, let's just wipe out Lucia. How come? Because they're close.
Yeah.
What?
Yikes.
Genocide?
Yeah.
Also, going back to what you said, how you have a greater appreciation for One Piece now that you're looking at it through a lens. I feel like media in general, the experience is elevated once you start asking why or wondering like why the author did this. Because if you just it goes back to what I said earlier between watching and looking, where you're just looking at the stuff, but when you're watching, you're like, okay, the character did this, why? Or oh, they said this when like it was a lie. Like, why did they lie about this? It makes you appreciate and understand, realize that authors put way too much thought into this, and it just overall makes you think, oh, this show is good. This show is amazing.
Yeah. I really appreciate you saying that too, because there's this really infamous quote from the showrunners of Game of Thrones, right? Especially when it got past the books and stuff. There's this really infamous quote that my older brother and I still yell at each other over the phone because when we're talking about this, because we just makes it so mad, where it's just so all I'm going to say is if you rewatch the last season of Game of Thrones as a comedy, it's actually very entertaining, but that's beside the point. But there's this infamous quote from Wise and Benioff, the two showrunners, where they're just like, they said themes are for eighth grade papers. We don't do themes or something silly like that, right?
Okay.
And it's just, and then when you say that and then watch the last few seasons of that show, you're just like, oh, they were just trying to get somewhere. This is all very utilitarian. That's why characters don't make sense. That's why certain like conclusions to situations just felt really tacked on. There was no thematic consistency through that whole thing. So there wasn't a story really being told about anything at that point.
Just a narrative.
Exactly. It was just a narrative. A narrative without themes is just a series of things that happen in order, right?
Yeah.
And when you're talking about, right, like when you're talking about these themes too, again, these nuances, when you're actually engaging with the story, when you're asking questions like, why did that character do that? That's when you could start to look back and see. And again, good writers will be able to do this. And Oda's very good at having these themes. And he's carefully put these themes into the series from the very beginning. And they're becoming more and more prevalent as that comes on. So even just that theme of masculinity, a lot of characters are like, oh, men do this and men don't do that and men do this. And then even Luffy talks about masculinity in a very positive way. And oftentimes but he's also very ready to cry. He is going to full on hug a very openly non-binary or queer person and be like their close friend. He will when
he saw Zoro after Whole Cake.
When you saw Zoro after Whole Cake, he literally jumped
cute
on him. That was adorable, and Zoro was happy to see him. Right, every time, like Ivanikov, like he calls him Eva-chan, and there was never any question about what, about his about Eva's own masculinity or femininity, because Eva's got both, right? There are just very positive explorations of masculinity and what it means to be a man from the very beginning of the series, and those just become more and more prevalent as the series goes on.
And he's the antithesis to what Judge is, because like I said earlier, Judge he reins himself in. He only focuses on his work and his view by other bigger players in One Piece, whereas Luffy's literally is him. And Judge allows others to dictate what he presents himself as, which shows a smaller. You see yourself as lesser because you're like, oh, I have to maintain this image. Whereas Luffy doesn't give a shit. He will just exactly small man, like Sanji called him. Whereas Sanji and Luffy will just be themselves no matter what. Because who are you to dictate how they should act?
Yeah. Sanji really doesn't care what other people think of him, except for sometimes women. In the Davy back fight when he puts the ball on his head.
Oh god, that's so long. I remember that.
Yo, it's like Zoro's just like, oh, you look like the Prince of Veronica. Just seriously, like, just kills me every time. But it's just like, but Nami's like, Sanji, that ball looks good. It look good on you, and then you put them on immediately. Yeah, but truly, again, like he really doesn't like. And when we're talking about like women actually being attracted to him, right? You're talking about Pudding, right? Like Pudding became attracted to him when he showed who he truly was. Consistently, and so that woman who she protected the mouse, like she actually started like just blushing every time he showed up after he did that, right? Sanji, when he's effortlessly himself, that's when people start actually getting really attracted to him too, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
And there's some, I really appreciate you saying that, Nedu. So there's some aspects on that. So I was watching when I was making notes and everything for the series, I decided to rewatch the Pudding, like behind the door rejection, where she shamed Sanji for his vulnerabilities and everything.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of men in the comments relating to it. Even I could too. Ooh, he spelled that one.
No, because I just remembered like him just trying to light up the cigarette, but it wouldn't light up.
It was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. It was probably one of the most heartbreaking scenes I've seen in One Piece.
Yeah, that was like burned into my brain. Like I think about that battle way too much.
Same. I was just like, you know, as much as I can hold space for a lot of us men who, I think all men have gone through that at some point, even married men. At some point, there's some woman who's weaponized your vulnerability and just threw it in your face. Could have been your mom, could have been your sister, could have been a cousin, could have been aunt, right?
But also, just to play devil's advocate, it's not always, because I've experienced that too, and it's not always women. It could also just be men sometimes.
For sure.
You feel comfortable in a space, you start opening up, and they're like, oh, like, why are you being so feminine? Or, oh, like, why are you acting such a bitch? And then you're like, oh, gonna climb up again, gonna close up again.
Yeah. No.
Like I said, the way Sanji asked for help, like I said, I liked how Oda was like, no, it's not just a woman making fun of him for that. Men are too. Even one of the Straw Hats.
Yeah.
Everybody's coming for Sanji.
Wait, was Frankie okay? Because like it's been years. Was Frankie making fun of him, or was he just like surprised? Like, oh wow.
No, Frankie was just like, call a woman for help.
I think
Also, like thinking back at it now, I feel like Zoro would have had a funny response to that.
Yeah, I kind of wish Zoro and Luffy were there, because I would have loved to hear what they had to say.
Right, they were on the roof, yeah,
they were on the roof. But I appreciate how Jinbei was neutral.
Yeah, exactly. Does he know everyone could hear him?
Yeah, he was just like, does he know everyone could hear him? Does Robin know that's a trap? That's all Jinbei said. But he did.
I feel like Zoro would have been like, you know that one video of Earl's sweatshirt where he's like, it smells like bitch in here.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, literally. That was like,
Zoro probably would.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And so I think it's, as much as like these things happen to us, man, I do think it's important. Kind of, I think what you were saying, Nedu, I think you're the one who said it, where it's just no, it was Aziz who said it, where it's, you have to have your Straw Hat crew. You have to have the people who accept you, because that's what allowed first Sanji found Zeph and the Barati cloaks and everything who were there for him, and then he also found the crew, and that's really actually no, I would even say when he joined the crew, he became more of himself. When he was with the Barati crew, he didn't really like talking about All Blue except with Zeph. He was a little bit self-contained in a certain way, but like when he joined the crew and Luffy heard him and received him for when he brought his intro and talked about All Blue, that's when he, he started really being more of himself. And that's really what I think is important. Like, even for me, like, I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't have, like, my crew that we even call ourselves Nakama, because we've been like this since high school. And for me, even with the young guys I had over yesterday, I brought them together. I'm like, honestly, like, they have such good traits, and they're all like nerds too. I'm like, if I just bring them together, like, they can have that connection. I remember one of them was going through a breakup, and then they were all just like, hey, let's talk about it. Obviously, they were giving, like, no offense, guys, they're probably listening. No offense, guys, it was like shitty 21-year-old advice, but I'm like, at least they're giving, what advice?
Talk about
it. Think about it, guys. What advice do you guys have when you guys were 21? You guys didn't have a relationship.
Nothing.
It's okay. You should probably just, it's okay to be sad, and that's how girls are. Let's play video games and go to the gym. It was just 21-year-old advice, but I'm like, at least they're they're receiving each other.
Yeah. Also, I don't think it's about the advice. It's about like being there for that person, right?
Exactly, right? it's different than this person sitting in their room by themselves, looking at pictures of this person that they broke up with, as opposed to being with a bunch of friends. Like, hey, that sucks. Let's hang out.
Exactly.
I know I've talked to Eb about this, but so I'm a therapist as well, and so one of the things that I often bring anime and manga into therapy because whatever, I can't even hide it. I'm a nerd. These kids know, they clock me in a second. So it's just like often, literally, with some of my clients, we're talking about like, who's your crew. That's literally like, hey, how Luffy's got a crew of people, this and that. Like, who's your crew? That's actually something that we use to help support them in identifying who positive people are in their lives, and that really effective because how the One Piece got each other's backs. Who has your back? Who doesn't though? Who are the people there that don't? Because there's a couple of caribous in there. There's a caribou. There's someone in a barrel. There's a mud guy in your barrel.
I thought he would have been gone after. Wano. I'm like, bro, you're still in the boat? Like, where?
I know. Who's that gross piece of sludge that's still kind of on your boat that you don't really?
Yeah, bro. Caribou at this point is pretty much the ship's hangnail.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm like, you're still here?
Yeah, I know. It's absolutely absurd.
Yeah. Also, going back to what you said of like how Sanji became more himself after he joined the crew compared to when he was in Barati, even though it was his home. I feel like it rings true for like how who you are amongst your best friends or nakama. You can go back home and still feel comfortable and safe, but like you're not gonna act the same way with your homies as you do with your parents because there's the level of reverence that comes into play, or the respect. Whereas with your friends, it's more of you guys are on the same level kind of thing.
Yeah. It's interesting when you say that too, because in One Piece, if you ask who's the first mate, obviously people are going to say Zoro, but there's really not a hierarchy on that ship. There's a captain, and everyone when they go off, someone will take charge when they need to, but almost every single one of them is capable of doing that.
Yeah,
so,
it's not a hierarchy; it's like a lateral job position for each one.
Yeah,
and it doesn't, and it depends too, right? Because yes, Zoro is first mate, but in the sense of when it comes to really hard decisions, because Luffy is a lot more multi-layered, right? Where he is more like him and Sanji are more likely to make less logical decisions. They're more likely to make more like an emotionally impulsive decision. Zoro's less like, I know they're in danger, but we need food.
I'm gonna go get this food. Cake made out of wax. I should cut my legs off.
Yeah, exactly.
What? Remember? Oh yeah,
Mr. B, the wax guy.
Oh my god! It's like you guys are gonna feel real stupid if you don't go into a cool pose and get frozen like that.
Oh my god!
Like everything about that. That was incredible. That was incredible.
Sometimes it's a little bit too logic, which has its own faults.
Yeah.
It's very like equal in terms of that stuff, and that's exactly it. And I think it's important to have those people in your life. Like I would say there's two people that like first had like big prominent roles in terms of just me being who I am. So one was like you don't even consider him my best friend. He's like a brother to me at this point, Shahid, and it's funny. He's probably listening to us, and like his actual favorite character is Luffy, and he was the first friend to just accept, because I can be a really intense person, but he just accept me for who I am. And so that part where, Sanji's just a weeping bald mess. Sanji, he can cry, but then he'll adjust his tie, light the cigarette. He'll say, I'm the prince, the hunter. He'll just say something cool. Oh, this guy's so suave. And then the jazz music will play. But he was just this is a whole mess. Yeah, the jazz music will start playing. It was like, and you're like, guy is so suave, smooth.
Oh, Sanji, damn.
He needs to get. Now that I mentioned that, there needs to be. One of his outfits needs to be an all-white suit. He needs to have an all-white suit at some point because burgundy is my favorite right now.
There is an all. That's a wedding tux, but like I think he has one in. No. Oh shit. No. I think he might have one in one of the movies, but that also might be a one-on-one. Never mind.
That's non-canon.
Yeah,
that's non-canon. He needs to have an arc where I would say with white gloves, because with Wano he had the black gloves.
One of my favorites.
The burgundy suit was hit different with the black gloves. You had that sort of James Bond feel.
Yes.
Anyways,
oh my god.
I'm glazing. We're glazing right now. Let's
but you are correct. You are absolutely correct.
Like, I didn't tune into this episode to hear a bunch of glazing of Sanji. Hey, first of all, you are We're all Sanji glazers. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, sorry guys.
Yeah, but for me, it's an asterisk though. Sometimes, as much as he's my favorite One Piece Straw Hat character, sometimes I'm like, Oda, why are you doing my man like this? Like, I have two things that like I would never forgive Sanji for.
Oh no.
One is in Wano, where like one was in the zombie island with Moria, where he was genuinely upset that he couldn't get the
Clear
for
yeah, because I'm like, bro, it went from my gag
Yeah.
now, like, you're high key creepy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I love you, Sanji, but if I was your bro at that moment, I'd smack you in the face.
Bro, stop. Just stop.
Yeah, exactly. Like that. And the other one was,
Soba
I
Man.
think the anime did him dirty with the latest arc where like a woman tells him, I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but like a woman tells him to, I think she's behavior or something, like the animators drew him like doing a dog position.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
so
yeah.
embarrassing.
Exactly what you're talking about.
I'm like, that is not the same Sanji. That's an imposter. That's
I remember that. She was just like,
That's
be a good
Lanji.
little dog for me. And she was like,
Lanji.
sure. And he started
Yeah.
barking. I was just like,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little hard to watch. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie.
yeah.
Yeah.
boy.
So I'm like, I love Sanji, but sometimes give me a reason to love you, bro.
That's why I appreciate him coming and saving Nami and fighting. Is it S Shark? It's S Shark, right?
That's shark. Yeah.
It's the rock from yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Sanji, man, you're trying to get you. Nedu, we were talking about that sculpture. I want to get that sculpture. I'm like, Sanji, it can't be.
I know, like Sanji. I gotta get the skull. You can't be doing stuff like that, dog.
Exactly. No, but I remember like when Sanji's being that weeping mess, and that's okay, and he was a mess. So I like to shame him. And then Luffy said, "That's just who you are." I remember so like that friend of mine, like he was the best man at my wedding. Like we have that type of connection. And I remember him saying something similar to me, and just being heard and being received hits different when you finally are heard and received, like just for who you are. And I was just like, yo, this scene, like that's, and then the song started playing. Do you want to be? I was like, damn. Absolutely.
Like, actually, look back to when Sanji was telling Luffy about the old blue and then all blue, and then imagine Luffy saying, "Bro, who gives a shit? go make me a sandwich." I think that would just demolish. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would have been. He's not joining the crew.
Yeah, I'm not even speaking to a human anymore.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh my god, yeah, no kidding.
Cool story, bro. Go make a sandwich.
Oh, could you imagine different show? I think at that point I would have just like high key just ejected that series. I'm just like, no, I'm out.
Right?
Can you imagine? But yeah, I really think Sanji is a lot of ways the heart of One Piece. It's because he is able to do the cool action. He's able to do the over the top childish comedy. He's able to do the dark nuance. He dips his toes in every aspect of the series in a lot of ways. Because a lot of people, and again, a lot of fans, and I'm talking outside of those really rough scenes you talk about these, because yeah, oh boy, those are. Anyway, but a lot of fans are like.
I'm thinking of the dog thing. That's what it's got me laughing.
That dog thing, that's just so rough. Rough. Anyway, sorry. The point I'm trying to make. Didn't even do it on purpose. Anyway, so the point I'm trying to make is that there's a lot of folks that just like, there are Sanji fans that are just like, why does this Oda hate Sanji? Because look at this. Why does he hate Sanji? And I'm just like, I don't think he does. I think he really likes the character. I think that's why.
Also, I think he just
had a
channels
whole
that
arc
part of himself
dedicated
through
to him.
Sanji.
Sorry, you're saying Aziz?
Oh, I think that he channels that part of himself through Sanji, because if you read like his author comments and like his SBS responses to fans, the guy is straight up horny. The guy's horny all the time. Even like in the last arc, he was like, "Oh, because they're all wearing short shorts, I had to get better at drawing asses."
Yeah, that was a literal goal of Oda's. Yeah, I remember reading the SBS too.
Unfortunately, guys, I gotta head out now, but. Before I go, I just want to raise one point that Nedu just talked about, with how like Sanji is like a multifaceted person, and that makes him like three-dimensional to the audience, and that's why he's therefore likable. This is the exact reason why Gintoki from Gintama is my favorite character of all time. I love that man to death, and he's been my favorite character since I started watching Gintama in 2015. And this is because, on one hand, you'll see him be badass like Zoro, fight against aliens, fight against like, other swordsmen and stuff, and like get hurt and sacrifice himself. And also, you'll see him come back home blackout drunk because he's stupid, or just wake up, go. because he's like, always broke and lazy, and like, you just see him like, you know, the thing Luffy does, where like, he just picks his nose and like, dumps it at someone else.
Oh,
Like
God.
27-year-old man like, doing that to other people.
So gross.
I feel like just showing the flaws of like a person, not like flaws that make them bad people, but flaws that show them that, hey, this is a regular human being that does weird stuff just like everyone, just like everyone else, makes them more believable and therefore more likable. And that's why like the term like Mary Sue or like Gary Stu are like now like used derogatorily, because if a character is perfect, like why should I watch? Why should I care? Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, you're just more reasons for me to eventually get into Gintama. I really want to watch it.
Yeah.
If there's
just
like
watch more anime because it makes fun of everything. Sorry?
I've seen, if there's a Gintama paste, I'll watch it.
Oh, yeah.
That's bad because Gintama is just so naturally funny.
Okay.
Imagine in the first scene, like, you just start watching the show, he has like his little scooter. He runs over like a young girl, and his first reaction is putting his head through a vending machine, hoping it's a time machine.
Sorry, what?
Also,
I haven't watched any shows because I after catching up on One Piece, I actually stopped watching anime and I just been gaming. When my friend wanted me to watch World Trigger.
I've heard of that.
People love the magic system in that, so I gotta check that out.
Okay, so that and Gintama is on my list. Those will be my top list, especially since I probably want another long-standing anime.
Honestly, I'd even suggest watching more of anime before you get to Gintama because it'll make fun of everything.
Oh, I've already loved that. I already seen scenes like how they made fun of fillers. I was just like, wow.
Oh yeah, classic. And like where even the final movie, like Gintama like ends with a final movie, and like, you go in and like years ago, and like, you literally go into the theater and the first thing is like them recreating like the Sabaody like separation, and then coming back 2 years later, and it's literally in the One Piece art style. And then they have like a 5-minute, this is what happened to this point, entirely in Dragon Ball's animation.
Oh my god.
Dude, they even used the actual soundtrack from Dragon Ball to the point where they actually credited the author of Dragon Ball at the end because like they just went beyond parody.
That's beautiful.
And it had like 14 lawsuits because of parodies and like cease and desists.
Oh my god.
Yeah, just saying. Gintama, I mean, they even have like a, what was it again? Like a Hunter Hero Chunin exam.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
okay, I'm in. You sold me.
Saying. And I think like they even at one point like because like it's pretty episodic, so like every season starts with like, okay guys, like our viewership is going down, so like we need to do something. And then one of them was like, what if we just rebrand it as like rebrand as like Dragon Ball Peace? Because like, they're already the big three, they're already making money, so like, they just plagiarize them. And there's this one episode where he does the final Getsuga Tenshu.
Oh god, okay.
And another episode where he's sleeping and then like Zangetsu shows up and he's like, you want to get stronger? He's like, no, I'm actually tired. Like, I feel like it's the perfect show to watch when you're past 25 because like, he's a 28-year-old man. So every single thing he does, you're like, that is literally me.
Okay.
You sold me. It's on
my top 2 list now. You've done it.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you so much for inviting me. This was amazing and I loved it. And hopefully I get invited to future ones.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate it. And all right, see you guys later.
All right, you take it easy.
Okay, bye, Aziz.
Bye.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so yes, so we'll continue the episode with Nedu and I. Yeah, and so now we both have a show to watch.
I know.
He's actually sold me for the first time on Gintama. I'm actually gonna watch it because I could use like this a casual, long-standing anime.
No, I'm sold too.
But yeah, so one of the things I wanted to also talk about is just the idea of within our cultures is being like this. What was the term I used? I used where is it? Basically, there it is. Achievement machines. Where that's really because there was a point where Reiju said, "What was it? It was." There it is. Those 3. Ichiji, Niji, and Yonji, I have to count. Those 3 are father's ideal sons, aka ideal soldiers.
Yeah.
Sorry, ideal soldiers, aka ideal sons. They lack emotions like pity, sympathy, and even sadness. And so you're just expected to you're expected to be void of emotions.
Yeah. Like your only value that you have is the things that you can do for other people, essentially, right? Yeah. Or air quotes, not even necessarily yourself. Like, I mean, I'm thinking about our culture a lot, how this, again, the joke is that it's like you're either a lawyer, an engineer, or a doctor, or a disappointment, right? And so it's just like those are all those in themselves are like, oh, just becoming any of those things is looked as an accomplishment of some sort. And it's just, I have this pal of mine, she says that I think it was her aunt, right? She'll often say, oh, my son, the doctor. And then I was like, you only have one son. Like, why are you saying that? You know what I mean? It's just like this idea that it's almost like it becomes this thing that you can brag about, right? You can brag about the air quotes accomplishments of your offspring. And for Judge, that's it. He's look at him in the flashback. You see him hugging his sons and doing, and these guys are good.
What they're doing.
Exactly. You broke down a wall. That was amazing. You kicked Sanji in the face because he's a little bitch. That's amazing.
You're running
right?
on water.
Exactly. Yeah. Look at that. Fantastic. And all he can see is ambition. Like, he's not even seeing his kids. All he is seeing is what they can bring for him. That's what the accomplishment is. And I would argue in some ways that kind of somewhat reflect in our culture at times, where it's just like when you see your kids becoming a doctor, lawyer, engineer, you're seeing ambition. You're seeing what they can bring. They're seeing the clout. You're not really
you can
seeing
gloat about to your siblings, to our aunts and uncles.
Exactly. And so it was nuts too, because if I were going to bring it back to a little bit personal stuff, when I went into the field that I did, and I also have a criminal justice degree. I've got.
I hope you're going to be a lawyer.
Well, exactly, right. And so that was the narrative that my parents started saying to other people, and I'm just like, you can keep saying that. It's not true. You're lying now. Because I'm telling you to your face, you're lying now, because I'm not doing that. Like, I got that criminal justice degree literally because I wanted to understand how North America perceives crime that's often like thrown at Black men. Like, I did that especially because I was like, okay, I want to do something about restorative work and stuff like that. It's a longer story for another time. But and when it switched gears, that was like a bit of shame for my parents, not because they were lying, but because they were like, now you made us tell this thing, and now what are people going to think of us? I'm just like, that's not my problem.
I miss what's it called? Bully McGuire. I missed the part where that's my problem.
Yeah, Bully McGuire. Yeah, I missed the part where that's my 100%. Oh man, now I just got to get that same.
I know, right? We just don't have like.
Yeah, it cannot accomplish that. Yeah, exactly. But that's what it becomes about. It's like these young men are supposed to just be an extension of yourself and something you can brag about, something you can throw in people's face. But that's never what Sanji was like, and because of that, he was shamed, he was hidden, he was abused. And I think it's not an uncommon thing that happens in real life.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And even for me, it's good that he was able to find those people that accept him for who he is, because what's allowed him to become as quote unquote high accomplishing and as capable as he is because of who he is because of his kindness and his nature. And that's really, first of all, that's what saved everyone whole cake.
100%.
It wasn't him using Diablo Jam or developing. He only developed Ifrit Jam in Jambe, I should say, because I actually speak a bit of French. Ifrit Jambe in Wano much later. He was the whole arc was about him saving everybody through his nature, because that's really what I wouldn't even say just saved Pudding. It reformed her. Yeah.
Yes. It changed her. She changed the way she became more of who she actually is.
Yes.
Right. She was acting because that's what was keeping her safe. Like that whole Whole Cake Island is a ridiculously oppressive place, right? That whole archipelago is ridiculously oppressive. Everyone puts up this facade because they're afraid of Big Mom, who is an abusive parent, right? Even Katakuri. Katakuri. And I'm sure you'll talk about this in some other time, right?
Like, I know you're to do about Katakuri.
I can't wait. But it's just you can't even be who you are because of so many different things, and because of that oppressive parent that is controlling you. And that was Pudding as well, right? Who her own mother told her that her third eye was unsightly and ugly. And then Sanji comes in just being that smooth operator, but literally, hey, what a beautiful eye. And there was no hint of irony, of lecherism, of just let him be like, wow, your eye's gorgeous. Like, and it's just like, it's funny too, because I completely destroyed her. And it's interesting too, because I, again, telling myself, like, I'm like somewhat of a air quotes emotional person, but I tend to be like honest. And again, I grew up with a lot of women as friends, and now I have a lot, like you said, I've got some really solid humans in my life that really support me being who I am. And so sometimes, again, because my brain doesn't work well, sometimes I kind of forget that. So there have been times where someone I know but may not know as well, I'm like, oh wow, you look beautiful today, and it's like literally a genuine comment, and then they're just like either get shocked, but then there have been times where oh they're like creeped out, like shit, I'm sorry, I forgot the cultural mores.
Yep.
And then one of my good friends who I remember having that comment, and I was like, okay, shouldn't have done that. Then you get your brain correct. Let's figure your shit out. And she was like, oh my God, thank you. She's like, that really made my day. And I'm just like, okay, like, it's like context is important for sure, but it's just like, all right, who are the people that you feel comfortable enough to be able to say something like that? And it's with my guy friends, when they look good, I'm like, dog, you look fine today. You look fine. You look good.
Yeah.
And being able to have friends that are men that are able to be like, thank you, like rather like, oh, what do you like get into some really homophobic crap? Yeah. It's like, dog, what are you doing? Why, like, literally someone who cares about you trying to compliment you, you're gonna pull that? Like, what are you doing? You know? Again, like being able to have friends that are close enough, or being able to just experience someone as genuine as that is, especially for folks who aren't used to that, like that like you said, that just broke pudding, because has anyone in her family ever said something like that to her? Probably not.
No. And that's the thing too, right? So I do like the idea of just like even Big Mom, because we always have this idea that maternal figure / mom is always right, always kind, always loving, always nurturing and supportive. No, Big Mom also put her daughter down for her features.
Yeah.
And like I've seen that in both sides, in all sides of my family.
Yeah.
Right. Where the moms will put them down. And yeah, and I've seen that with my friends too. My female friends, like where their moms will make them very much more self-conscious of themselves, because we look more like our dads, and usually most people would like the boys will look more like their dads, and girls will look more like their moms, have more of their features. And you know, because the mom, how she sees herself now, like my friends like, oh, maybe I am ugly because my mom doesn't like her own features, right? And it's like, yeah. And these things, these conversations need to happen. So I really appreciate how, once again, Oda putting in those nuanced things. Yeah. And yeah, it was Sanji who really was just like, no, you're beautiful. And then it completely broke down the persona she built for herself.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Absolutely.
To the point where she became, so it's what's funny is that like, you're laughing guys, you know where I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Fun fact, this is like Sanji's quote unquote fiance, they have a 5-year gap, the same 5-year gap I have with Deb.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was funny. And yeah, Pudding just became, after her persona breakdown, she just became an emotionally erratic mess.
Yeah.
And I do want us to have a conversation, as I didn't get a chance to bring it up when Aziz was here, but a follow-up. I do want to do an episode on Pudding and Hiyori, because they're both back-to-back relationships for Zoro and Sanji.
Yeah.
But Pudding became who she really is, and because Sanji saw her for who she really is, and so she becomes just emotionally erratic. It made me. My wife's gonna hate me for this, but like, there was a point she was on her period, and I saw her. Swear to God, I don't like to do that, but because people are like, this guy's capping. I saw her cry and laugh in under a minute.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I was like, "Are you broken? What? Like, why?" And so I'm watching Pudding do this. I'm like, "Yeah, this is what a woman who is in love will do. When she's in love, you'll see all sides of her, and the rest of Whole Cake, they've never seen those sides of Pudding, where she's like emotionally. They don't even know she has a third eye.
Yeah,
right. Because she, like, for women, they have to put on this perfect, demure, flowery, angelic image for everybody. But when she's with you, when she likes you, you're gonna see
all
cacophony of emotional range. Where you're just like, I didn't know a human being could feel these things.
Yeah, in this quick succession. And it's like,
thank you, in this quick succession. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. No, and it's just like, again, it's so wild, and it's just like, also just like that acceptance. They feel comfortable enough with that person to be able to show those sides of themselves. And it's just like, okay, like that in itself is a huge. Could you imagine how much of a relief that was for Pudding to be able to do all that? when
to
she
let
had
down
to
her
do
hair or at least put
Exactly.
up her hair.
100%. Like, think about how much hair gets in her third eye, and she has to keep closed all the time. No,
Yep.
she can literally just literally open up.
Yeah.
Yeah, just wow. Yeah, I love that.
And that's the thing that she felt like every time. So I like this little bit of a dynamic in the show. So every time Sanji had a nosebleed, or Pudding, it was because of how she looked, or how pretty she was, or how nice she was when she decided to be nice.
Yeah.
But for Pudding, every time she had a nosebleed is because of Sanji's character and his accomplishments.
Yeah.
One of the things that she genuinely fell in love with Sanji for is, as much as like she shamed him and weaponized his vulnerability and his kindness and his feelings against him, that's exactly what she fell for. In the end, she loved how kind he was, because she didn't just see him save her. He saw her save Nami. He saw her save who else? Her sister. He saw her save who she didn't know was her father-in-law. He saw her. She saw him save who else? His family. So there was a consistency in terms of Sanji being able to save people. And like, for my wife, I would say probably like my intellect was probably second, but the thing that like my wife lists about like the thing that she loves about me is how kind I am. As much as like growing up, it definitely wasn't an ideal trait. It's something she loves about me, where I'm just like, I'm always kind and helpful to others. Like there was a situation where we were driving to my in-laws for, it was New Year's, and I'm not joking, someone's bumper just was almost in the middle of the intersection, just leading up to their place. And so I was just like, we both agreed for me to move it. She was like, oh, like we should move it, even though she said she meant me. She didn't try. So I was moving it, and then the lady who noticed her bumper came off. She came, and then I helped her put in a car. And she was so thankful of me helping her, just figuring out how to put in her car so she can take it, because she's on the way to a mechanic. And so my wife was like, this is one of the things I love most about you. You're just so kind and helpful towards others. And that's the same thing with Sanji. And so like me, both in terms of Deb and Pudding, like seeing that come from us, it made Pudding and Deb too more kind for others. You saw Pudding, she kept saying, what was it? She's like, I have to help Sanji and his friends escape. Not just Sanji. Well, she says Sanji
and his friends.
But yeah, she was saying so erratic. I was like, whoa. But yeah, she kept saying that all the time. Like, I need to help them. I need to save everybody. I wasn't Pudding before. She was like, let them die, bro. I don't care.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. That's actually a great thing to notice, because she was talking about everyone. She said and his friends. Right? Yeah. Like she didn't just focus on the person she specifically cared about. That's interesting.
Yeah. To the point where she reached out to Chiffon and went to Biggie and everything, who could have attacked her because she's Big Mom's I think her favorite daughter, but she was just like, I'm gonna ask for help because we need to save everybody.
Yeah.
I need to make sure Sanji gets away safely.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think for me, one thing I can certainly say about the whole even kindness thing, right? I've been throwing some shade at my parents, and the ancestors are going to come after me, so I got to balance it out a little bit. But in all honesty, again, it's just I give a lot of credit to my parents, because, like I said, I've told you this before, Ed, they've really changed a lot. And I think I honestly attribute some of them to them being like science and math folks. Like, oh, we have new information, we have to act on it. Like, that's what you do. You integrate the new information. But like my parents, I remember it was only a few years before I moved. I think maybe a couple of years before I moved, where I really realized they accepted me and my the way I was and what I was doing. Is because I remember at one point I was at my parents' place, and I think I was like I was like low-key freaking out about something, but it was like about me not doing enough. I can't remember what it was. There's something activism related, because I was like in the activism scene back then.
Still kind of are, but yes.
I
was like,
the kind. I appreciate it. I know
what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's true. It's fair. but it's just, I was just saying this stuff, and I'm just like, I don't do enough. Like, I'm trying to do this, and this didn't work out. I was trying to do this to work out. I was like having a bit of a crisis there. And again, like I said, been having an existential crisis since I was 6 years old. Back then, my parents are just back out of the room. They're like, oh,
Put a cage on his head. So
yeah, put a cage on the head, throw him in a cage.
Yep.
But like, I remember my dad just like put his hand on my shoulder and I was like, you do a lot. And I just like, kind of broke my brain for a second because I'm just like, I'm sorry. Who are you? What is this? But again, like I realized at this point where they were like, it's funny because my parents always fostered kindness in us, but it was more about actions than words a lot of time, because they would say one thing, but then they'd do something that was very kind.
Yeah.
Or something that's very community supporting and all this stuff. And so I guess I like certainly adopted that. I learned from it, but I didn't think that was valued at all by my family until my dad, I think because they realized like, oh, we need to actually tell him that we actually like this about you. And so I think that was, because I knew my friends at that point, like at that point I finally had like, some solid friends. And again, I probably didn't have, certainly had a few, but I probably didn't have solid friends until like I was an adult. Like it was not great. And so at that point, I think I was able to like, at least appreciate that people could like that about me. I didn't realize why my parents did. I knew they loved me, but then be like, hey, we actually
really like you. Yeah,
exactly. Like we like you as people. Like now when my parents visit, like we have a good time. Like they still give me a hard time about, you know, not having a PhD or not being single, but like it's there.
You're not the ideal son yet, but we like you as a son. Yeah,
exactly. And that's like pretty huge for them. So being able to like, one of the, you know, Luffy's just saying like that, of course that's who you are, like just hit me so hard. And then even like at one point, like Sanji wasn't there, but then Brooke saying, because I think Brooke may have been one of the first people to actually voice it like that, because Sanji's a very kind man, so he probably did that for a reason. I was just like, damn, like they all be seeing this and they're actually voicing that. And I thought that was really cool. And being able to, I think about when I was reading that, I was thinking about that, or I guess I watching that because I rewatched it. I've seen all of One Piece more times I'd like to admit. But the point is that like when I was, I whenever I think about that, I think about that moment with my dad where he said that, and it was just like, and how much that meant to me to be seen by this father that I didn't think saw me until for a long period of time. That was huge.
I've definitely had those moments. So even I wanted to mention her Africa too. She's had those moments where she's like, yeah, he's strange, but he's very kind. He's a very good person. And just having people see you for who you are, it can make a huge difference. It can help you be more of yourself and be more of yourself. Also, not to say it should be the only thing, but more of yourself in the service to others, more of yourself in terms of getting a better outcome in life. Because I was definitely told there was something wrong with me growing up, right? Especially with me being more on the sensitive side, liking anime and comic books and all those things. And just having those people like, no, that's who you are. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, it's even funny because Luffy and Sanji almost had like a falling out because of a wedding that almost happened with me and my friends. And I remember, it's layers, man. Layers. Oh, and my Shahid, Luffy, you just knew if Robert is making these decisions, there's a reason why he's making those decisions. And just having people see you in that regard, as opposed to, is he the same person? It's like, why would I not be the same person? And so just being with someone who just values me being kind. And I would also say on her too, I would say that every woman has a third eye. And what I mean by that, every woman has, no matter how attractive she is, no matter how much of a quote unquote baddie she is, she has an insecurity. And if you could see her in spite of her insecurity, and I'm not talking about internal, I'm also talking about external. It could be her ankles, it could be her ears, her earlobes. Every woman has some sort of insecurity because women are scrutinized more under their physical looks. When you can see her for who she is, she will also accept you for who you are too. Every woman has those things. So even for my wife too, like there was, I won't say what hers is, but when I saw it, like she was just like, it was stressful for her as a black woman. It was stressful for her me to see other things about her, and she was just like, "Oh, he accepts me." I
love that. I think that's amazing. And there's this theme of friendship in One Piece, but I honestly think it goes deeper. It's like acceptance. Given what you said right there, maybe not deeper, but it's alongside that, right? This idea of acceptance is huge, and that's exactly what you're talking about there. This idea of being able to see a whole person for who they are and being able to accept all parts of them, both like the good and bad, right? And because none of us are just one thing, none of us can be, and we could pretend to be, but we're just not. Again, going back to Zoro real quick. Again, I know this isn't a big flaw or anything, but honestly, my favorite trait of his is the fact that he has no sense of direction, and that he's a little self-conscious about, just a tiny bit. Yep. When people point it out, he gets pretty mad. Yep. Like that whole scene where he's just like, I'm gonna go help look too, and Sanji's like, no, if we do that, who's gonna find you? And he's just like, and then Chopper's like, please stay still, and Robin's just, please stay still and help us all out. He's like, you guys too. Like that's just like those are like, that's honestly like legitimate, and I actually like Zoro a lot too. I'm not like in the camp of it's not that hard, but it's just like my favorite trait of his is that weird little thing where he has no sense of direction, and then he's mildly self-conscious about that, and everyone knows, and they love him for it.
I love the scene where he was just like, yeah, what are the Lunarians? They have dark skin,
black
wings, and yellow eyes, and it was just like, are you serious?
You didn't bring that up earlier,
right? Oh, and they have flames on their backs, and it's like,
you forgot that,
bruh.
Guy's got 2 brain cells. Yeah, that killed me.
Yeah, but yeah, it's all about acceptance, and that's the thing that really was whole cake, and that's another thing that, you know, like I said, Sanji saved them from his kindness, right? He even refused to poison Big Mom. Like, he just really stuck to his morals, his integrity, who he is, and that's really what saved everybody, and it's what ultimately drew Pudding to him, right? Where this is the man for me. She's realized she's not ready for him, which is, we can definitely talk about that in the episode about Hiyori and Pudding, but she acknowledged those wonderful traits about him to the point where she went and punched his brothers.
Yeah.
Because they were so hurtful towards Sanji.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you have any other like clothing things, but I think this is what it means to be a Renaissance man, a multifaceted man. We need to move the conversation out, and for me, I think we need to further develop this conversation how we see men, or we're not. Even for me, I have to go back. After watching Whole Cake, I'm like, I need to watch Iron Man 3 again. It has its issues, but just from the aspect of men's mental health and vulnerability, like, I need to watch Iron Man 3 again.
Absolutely.
I have to explore.
I agree with you. I think a lot about Falcon Winter Soldier, which is a show I have very mixed feelings about. I think there's a lot of flaws in that show, but one of my favorite aspects is when Bucky and Sam talk about emotions, literally, and Sam's like a therapist. Like, it's a thing that he does. He does that for vets, and them being able to have this really emotional conversation, I really like that. I'm like, give me more of that shit, shoot it into my veins. I thought that was beautiful. Also has different than the comics, but Baron Zemo's in there, and so I'm like, just throw Zemo in. I'm in. Give me more Zemo. That's all I want. I'm a simple man.
Zemo's one of my favorites in both the MCU and the comics.
Oh, no way. Yeah.
He's also very obsessively obsessed about Captain America. I tend to like the very homoerotic villains because I'm just like, just kiss. Yeah, 100%. Like Zemo said, I thought of nothing else for you but you. I'm like,
dog.
Excuse me?
Yeah, you got it down bad. Just say it, dude. It's fine. You know,
like, now that you're up close, I can see a bit of green in the blue of your eyes.
Yeah.
Like, how wonderful to see an imperfection. I'm like, hey, yo.
Yeah, yo, God. Dog. Just tell me how you feel.
Relax.
It's not alive.
I hate Superman so much. I'm going to have this kid.
100% Lex Luthor wants to. Yeah, no, Lex Luthor is 100% in love with Superman. That, very clear. Very clear.
Yeah.
But yeah. But no, I don't have anything else to add. Like this, like, I love Sanji. I think I like that we keep learning more about him. I honestly feel it's almost like I feel a little bit bad that he got so much development, because I feel like some of the other characters haven't. But I'm not complaining because he's my favorite Straw Hat. So.
Whole arc.
Yeah, a whole arc.
It's not like he's in. The arc was made for him, because like Ennis Lobby was an arc, and Robin was part of it.
Yes.
Or Arlong Park. That was an arc that Nami was part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because and I say in this, and Sanji was already on the career. He had development, but then there's a whole arc
that
was just about that. There wasn't even like a real. He didn't even beat Luffy. Didn't even beat Big Mom. He just beat Katakuri. Not to say it's not a big deal, but it wasn't a traditional arc. It's not like everyone had a different fight and this.
Yeah,
he just came to save Sanji. It was a rescue arc.
Get in and get the book out.
Exactly, and then there was like 30 episodes of them just trying to get away.
Yeah, people got really upset about those episodes because like just hearing Big Mom yell "wedding cake" over the course.
It was annoying to me. I watched One Piece, and even for me, which is a condensed version, I was like,
"Yeah,
guys.
I sound offed it a couple times because at least point I'd probably read it twice already, so I'm like, I don't need to hear this part."
Yeah, I was like, can you just escape, guys? It made sense. They're trying to get away from a territory. They're not trying to escape from an island.
Yeah, I actually, despite the wedding cake line being repeated a lot, especially in the anime. Oh my god! But I actually love that arc, especially the whole escape aspect was really cool. It just shows that even no matter how strong you are, if you have on the sea, shit gets real fast.
Yep.
So anyway, it's good stuff. Loved it.
Yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We have another episode. I guess we say a part to the whole cake, which is covering Katakuri, called Real Men. So this one was called Real Men Don't Cry, but there's another one that we're going to be doing once again with Nedu and Aziz called Real Men Don't Have Feelings, through the exploration of Katakuri in the arc. I think he was probably one of the most nuanced, I would say, antagonist. He's not a bad guy. He's one of the nuanced antagonists in this series, and I appreciate what they did with him.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So with that said, thank you guys for listening, and I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Be a Renaissance man.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Yep. Bye. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and a review. To catch the latest news, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Black Nerd Talks. And if you enjoyed our latest episode, consider subscribing to the podcast. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.